Yo, welcome to another exciting episode of Double D's. Let's talk about it, the sports podcast that touches on all your NFL and football news. We are your hosts, Damian Deshawn and D of D's Corner. We touching in with you today. What's going on, my brother? How you doing, man?
What's going on, bro? It was a crazy draft, man.
Yeah,
Crazy
it was
draft. I'm ready to really dive into it.
Yeah, it was very interesting, man. We don't have to waste time. This episode, we will be giving y'all our draft grade opinions, some of the interesting takes and pickups, and maybe touch a little bit on our own personal squads and look at some of the interesting undrafted free agent pickups. We can start with Arizona. It's a team I believe had 12 picks,
Mhm.
man. I think they did good. Personally, I'm gonna give them. I'll agree with what some of the references we're using here. I give them an A in the way that they drafted need. First, they assessed the receiver need, in which they did. They lost Hollywood Brown. They bring in probably the best offensive and overall player in the draft right now in Marvin Harrison Jr. I also like the pickup, particularly of Max Melton at corner. He gives him a big physical corner that can press man, play zone. I'm not going to be a homer, but I like the pickup of Trey Benson. He's a good complementary back to James Conner, I believe, was who their starter, where you get
Mhm.
size. The size, he's a little smaller than Conner, but you get that kind of size, but you get more burst. So if he can get a lane, read his holes right, he's going to be able to hit that joker and be able to get you 5-10 yards. NFL, he ain't gonna be no 20-80 yard runs, but for
Right.
his type of speed and size, he'll be able to get you 10. But what are your takes on some of the interesting picks they took?
I actually like their draft. They didn't do a lot during free agency,
Mhm,
and before I get into it, I'm gonna
mhm.
try to stay strictly on the draft.
Yeah,
Um, but for what they needed, they got a lot of depth late. Xavier Thomas out of Clemson is a player that can come in and
yeah,
potentially be a draft steal from what he was able to do in his young career early on in Clemson. I
mhm,
really gotta love the Marvin Harrison pick. You gave
yeah,
Kyler, and if you look, they gave Kyler two wide receivers, a tight end, as well as a running back. And I
mhm,
told you early on that I felt like they're going to try to do as much as they can to let Kyler prove either you're going to be our guy or you're not.
not,
Um, like I said, they didn't do a lot during free agency, but I love the pickup of Darius Robinson. I know me and
yeah,
Steve touched on it after the first day. This is
mhm,
a guy that can play inside and
and
outside.
out.
He's
Mhm,
long, and that's kind of what Gannon likes to do as a coach. He likes to build in that defensive front. I love the Max Melton pick. He could probably come in and start day
mhm.
one. Marvin Harrison, obviously. I like Trey Benson and Isaiah Adams, the guard out of Illinois.
Yeah,
Really, really, really physical
mhm,
run blocking.
mhm,
So when you think about all that they had, Elijah Jones is another pretty solid DB.
mhm.
Tip Raymond is another. He'll be more like a traditional tight
Inline
end,
blocker. Yeah.
inline blocking.
Mhm.
Every now and then get you a possession here, possession there. But I really like what they've done. This thing, to me, it says that this team is going to be physical. They're going to
Yeah.
come and they're going to run the ball, and then they're going to try to hit you over the top with Marvin Harrison, who is literally, in my opinion, was the best overall player in the draft.
Yeah. Another name before we move on. Taylor Demerson is also an interesting one to watch in his
Yes,
development going down,
yes, yes.
because at one point he was projected he could have went possibly higher than he did.
Hmm.
So for him to fall into that spot, I think it'd be real interesting to see how he develops. goes on.
Especially with Buda Baker
Exactly.
wanting to be the highest paid safety, and they've been kind of iffy on him.
Mhm.
I don't know why, but maybe that gives you life after Buda. So
Yeah. All right. So we're gonna transition to one of the biggest shakeups in the draft, starting in the first round. That's the Atlanta Falcons. A lot of people, even Atlanta fans, are really questioning the pick for the first take. Uh,
mhm.
I give their draft a B. I give it a B. Some say C plus as we look here. I'll give it an even B. I do question the Penix pickup where they took him. I do understand why they took him though, because you have Cousins coming off the injury, even though you gave, as many asked the question, you gave this man this much money, then you turn around and draft a quarterback who's, if he doesn't play within the 2 years, he's already close to 30. So I understand it. It's a security blanket just in case. I do like to pick up Ruka Rojo. I'm trying to say it right, and Brandon Dorless. I like those picks where they got them. They tried to address edge in that situation. Actually, if you look at their picks between Braylon Trice, and Brandon Dorless, they kind of tried to make up for the questions that everybody asked them. Why didn't you just take a defensive end in Latu Verse or Dallas Turner in that spot instead of taking Michael Penix? And they tried to come back and address those needs on defense late. Um, but I'll stick with what I said. I think they answered some of the questions. It wasn't like they needed a lot on defense. What they were pretty much adding would be, in my opinion, just the cherry on top of a solid defense that they already have. But your opinions are what, man?
For the draft itself, man, I got to give them a D.
Yeah, man.
Honestly, yeah, man. And it's not that I don't like some of the players. It's just when you took them. Michael Penix, you just gave Kirk $100 million, signed him, and then you signed so many wide receivers throughout free agency, making trades for them. I just had the kid's name from the little fast guy from Arizona that you traded your quarterback for, but Ruka Rojo, you took him at 35 when Johnny Newton was still on the board. Johnny Newton is he's a more pro-ready guy. Rojo had good workouts, not good tape. Braylon Trice, good tape, not good
workouts.
Yeah. So now Brandon Dorless, I do like that pick. JD Bertrand is a player who'll probably come in early on special teams. But to me, what this says is, if I'm looking at it from the Falcons standpoint, Raheem Morris is like, whatever's on defense, I can coach that. Let's make sure our offense is it. But to me, looking at it, what is the Falcons' identity now? Because regardless of what people are going to say, they said that they had Penix as their second-rated quarterback. Cool, then you take him. That by all means you take him. But why, if that was even an option? If that was even an option, they didn't move up, they didn't move back. You stayed pat at your pick, which means you've had to have known at some point in time that this was a possibility. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If you were going to take a bridge quarterback, take a bridge quarterback. You could have had Gardner Minshew for way cheaper, and then you could have filled some of these holes that you did have on defense.
Yeah.
Because the holes that they have on defense is you need another safety next to Jesse Bates. You need another corner opposite of AJ Terrell. And they did draft some edge guys last year, but you still need to beef up that. Dallas Turner, I think everyone had him mocked there. I think every time we did the mock, it was either him or Verse. Yeah. Those two, in my opinion, would have been better than Braylon Trice. Like I said, it was just the first pick was a head scratcher. The next three seemed like they tried to make up for the first one. So it seemed like, you know what I'm saying? It didn't seem like, and we'll talk about other teams. Other teams, it seemed like they stuck to their draft.
Yeah.
This, it looked like, hey, look, we got to jump on Michael Penix. Let's take him. The kid can throw. He can do this. But like you said, he's an older kid too. Yeah. The one thing about him, he's probably going to be taking a lot of the reps while Kirk Cousins is recovering from that Achilles surgery. So when you get Drake London, Kyle Pitts, like, hey, Penix can throw. They said that Kirk doesn't have to look over his shoulders. We know how Atlanta is.
Yeah.
We know how Atlanta is.
I understand the city.
They're gonna be calling for Penix. The first time Kirk's only won one playoff game.
Yeah. The pressure
Why
is
are we
actually on Kirk. Yeah.
this the Kirk Cousins situation? And I know, like I said, we're gonna try to stay on strictly on draft.
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna benefit Dak so much.
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna benefit Dak so much because Kirk Cousins, like I said, one playoff game you gave him that much money, like he's gonna be the leader to your the leader of your franchise. And then everyone was comparing the Aaron Rodgers, Jordan Love type deal. First of all, Jordan Love fell to them in the 20s. Aaron Rodgers contemplated retirement, spoke about retirement. It's pretty much the same thing Brett Favre did when they drafted Aaron Rodgers.
Mm-hmm.
Kirk Cousins, this wasn't that same situation.
Yeah.
And then you called him right while you were on the clock. So it wasn't even something that you guys kind of like, hey, we're going to sign you. You're going to get your money, but if there's a quarterback available, we're going to jump for our future as well. Okay. That, to me, it just seems like you're on an early rocky start.
Okay, to clarify before we transition, the reason why I did give it a B was simply because of the subject matter that you brought up with Kirk Cousins. This is an insurance policy, so
right,
it's a insurance policy. So that's why I said instead of giving him the C+D, I gave him a B because okay, you did miss. It's a head scratcher situation, but I get you look long term. You know, I mean, actually short term because you don't know exactly Kirk's health.
What is going to be coming off the injury?
Yeah, so
I
you
get
had
I
to
get
make
all
sure
that.
you didn't address it in free agency, so you're going to address it in the draft. So we're
the
going
reason.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
The reason why I gave it a D is because this is something that you don't see in the NFL. You don't see big money given to a quarterback and then instantly sorry, here thumping.
Yeah.
And then instantly you draft a rookie quarterback because now you can't take full advantage of the rookie deal. Mm-hmm. Pitts is gonna be up next year for a contract. The year after that, London will be up. 2 years after that, Bijan will be up. So you would have really been in a great position to completely change and fill this roster because I think Raheem Morris is a really good coach. I don't think this draft is going to make them plummet, but the NFC South, in my opinion, was theirs for the taking. It was there. It was there for them.
Now they put themselves in a position to continue to battle Tampa for that spot. We're gonna transition.
We're gonna talk about the other teams too.
Oh yeah, we're gonna get into the other teams.
Yeah.
But this draft here, I really, outside of the Cardinals, this is one of the particular teams I really, really, really liked what they did. They addressed the identity of their football team.
The Baltimore Ravens.
And in the trenches, the Baltimore Ravens. I give them an A+. The Nate Wiggins pickup, you can question some of his physicality, but I think the transition and the fact that he's coming in as the opposite corner, already an all-pro level cornerback in Humphrey. I like that. I like the Roger Rosegarden. He'll be able to slide in eventually into that tackle position and just be a solid piece on what they traditionally always had. Here's a name that pops up with you in plenty of our mock drafts. Good complimentary player, and Adisa Isaac doesn't have to be the lead guy, so he'll just be a body that rotates and be able to come after the quarterback. Tez Walker. You get Tez Walker at the 113th pick. He gives you a little bigger receiver that can capable of stretching the field. So he gives you intermediate, stretch the field, big enough frame. He's not too small. Perfect. The interesting pick here is TJ Tampa. I'm going to tell you something. I got this information. I don't know if I shared it from you, but from the prototype told me, and he explained to me why TJ fell. This person that told me that played in the NFL for multiple years, talked to him in a space. And the one and only Antonio Cromartie. He said TJ is falling because his hips. TJ's a little stiff in his hips, and that's the reason. One of the reasons why he even though he was projected to come off the board in earlier rounds, he ended up falling because when you look at the tape and his movement and his natural movement, it's a little off. It's something I believe that you can work on, but in my opinion, but I can understand that's could cause him to fall. But for them to get him where they got him, and you already have Nate Wiggins, now you're putting yourself in position to have your depth is now. If TJ Tampa works out and that's your floor in the DB room, that's a hell of a DB room, man. And I really like it's a hell of a room. The Devin Leary pickup, considering where it is, I understand. I don't understand the pick, but I understand taking him. You took him later round, late draft. I can see at that
lost
point,
Tyler Huntley.
Yeah. I don't see how he would fit in their scheme, considering how they use traditionally Jackson, and then how they used the quarterback Huntley behind him and being able to transition and wouldn't have to completely change the offense dynamic of what they do on offense with Leary. But we can transition to what your opinions are, man. What are your opinions on what they did?
But so I'm gonna tell you like this: the TJ Tampa pick, I
Mm-hmm.
understand it. I understand with his hips. I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't expecting him to get drafted to a team that ran a lot of man and stuff, needing his hips. I thought he would go to a team like Dan Quinn, Gus
Mm-hmm.
Bradley, those zone heavy, because he's got really good
Uh-huh.
eyes,
Yes.
really good length, decent speed. Nate Wiggins, love the pick. I love their. I give them an A as well. I just
Mm-hmm.
dropped a. I just dropped a. My winners and losers of the draft. I couldn't
Mm-hmm.
give everybody winners because, in my opinion, this was a draft where there was like a few losers. Everyone
Yeah.
else, in my opinion, to some degree, got better. Baltimore seems to always like they draft so freaking well.
Well.
Nate Wiggins, I
Mm-hmm.
love the pick. Roger Rosengarten can step in and instantly be the right tackle. You lost three of your
Uh-huh.
offensive linemen during free
Yeah.
agency. Adisa Isaac, great player, opposite of Owe. And then you got a Jabo coming back from Michigan off injury. We already talked
Yeah.
about Devontae Walker, which again is another phenomenal player, can stretch the field. That's something Zay Flowers doesn't really do. Even though he is a
Mm-hmm.
speedster, he doesn't stretch the field.
Field.
I did. I think uh, Tez Walker and TJ Tampa were just like luxury picks. Like
Yes.
this is still here because during before the draft they re-signed Rashad Bateman,
Bateman.
who's also a speed guy. So now
Mm-hmm.
you have weapons galore for
Mm-hmm.
Lamar Jackson going into his second year in this offense. Um, that's secondary because TJ is going to be able to play outside because
Yeah.
Marlon's going to go with the number one guy and he can
Mm-hmm.
play inside. Nate will man the number two. If Nate Wiggins, if TJ Tampa is your third corner, you're
Mm-hmm.
in really good shape especially when you take in consideration of the safeties that they have, Marcus Williams
Yes.
and
And Hamilton.
Kyle Hamilton.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I love their draft. I
Yes.
love their there.
Great.
To be honest with you, I don't think there's a team in the NFC North that I didn't like their draft.
Yeah.
Just for
Everybody did solid.
what that division is. This draft screams Ravens.
Yeah. It does scream Ravens. It screams what they've traditionally done in their
Right.
front office. But we move on to Buffalo, man. I'll stick with what we see here, and that's a B grade. I give him a BB plus. I like the pickup of Coleman, of course, not being a homer. The only questions is not as long speed, but if he can show consistent route running and being able to get off of jams and when they
Mm-hmm.
play teams that run man press man and being able to get separation. If he can demonstrate that, or even be what's the name, the receiver that was in New Orleans that came from Ohio State, got often injured.
Michael Thomas.
Yeah, Michael Thomas. If Keon Coleman can give them top end, Michael Thomas, and that's a productive receiver. I mean, that's all
Mm-hmm.
you can ask. The pickup of Cole Bishop and this particularly Dwayne Carter. I like that pickup. I think he's the one of them that you said his workout wasn't that good, but his tape is damn good. Uh
Yes.
his tape is damn good. I like that pickup in that spot for them. And uniquely, Ray Davis. I think that's a great compliment to
I love it.
James Cook. James is a little bit more your slasher, a little quicker. Ray gives you a little bit more of that guy that can pound the
He's
thunder,
gonna
thunder
bruise
to
you.
the lightning. He's a little bit more of a
Yep.
bruiser downhill. So I really like that pickup. Cedric Brempron Granger and Daquan Hardy. That's an interesting name too. Is he? I think he was the one that was a little bit on the small side of the Penn State corners. I can't remember.
Yeah, that's
Uh,
him. Ran
yeah,
that blazing 40.
yeah, good speed. He's just, I mean, size. Sorry, the size is a little bit of the reason why um, he probably wasn't picked in a couple of little higher rounds. But overall, I do stand by a B plus for their draft, considering that they moved back a lot in the trade and in the draft and acquired picks. What do you think, man?
To be honest, I give him a B as well. Keon Coleman. To be honest, I love a lot of their picks. Just looking at them,
Yeah,
there's a new kickoff rule this year
yeah.
that they're implementing. I think it's from the UFL.
Yeah.
So that's why you'll see as we go through a lot of return guys got drafted. Hardy, that's going to be his primary thing. He'll be a depth piece in the secondary, but he's going to be a return guy. Javon Solomon is a shorter edge rusher who can come in and learn from Greg Russo as well as Von Miller. Ulo Foshio is a tackling machine. They lost some linebackers. I really like that one. Got Van Prangranger is the center. Love Dwayne Carter. Love Ray Davis, like you said. And the reason why I love a lot of these picks, Dwayne Carter can play next to Ed Oliver. He's not coming in to be the guy. Ray Davis is going to be the complement to James Cook. He doesn't have to come in to be the guy. Cole Bishop, same thing. He'll probably be the second or third safety. May play in the box and stuff. They'll utilize him because the kid can play and he can move. The Keon Coleman, the only issue that I have is, like we talked about leading up to the draft, the first three guys we know are number ones.
Yeah.
Everyone else is like a glorified number two, maybe a 1B. The only issue I have with that is he doesn't have a true veteran there to learn from.
Yeah.
And to develop and become, because they lost Diggs and Davis.
Gabe.
So there's going to be a lot on him. Now, he's not a route technician. Josh is going to throw him the ball.
Yeah.
He's just going to have to win 50-50, and with the speed and all that, he could become more like a not necessarily like Anquan Bolden, but I could see some similarities, not just the Florida State thing.
Yeah.
Wasn't that fast. He's definitely going to bulk up. He's going to get bigger because all he has to focus on now is football.
Yeah.
No school or anything like that. But watching his interview, his press conference coming in, I like what I saw. I like what I saw. I think he'll fit in. I think he'll fit in perfectly. He doesn't come off like he'll have a give me the ball type attitude. I think he'll come in and I think he'll play pretty well. So I give the Bills a B as well.
Okay. Well, we move on to Carolina. And I'm gonna say this, considering where they were going into the draft and what they giving up the previous draft, I stick with a B plus. I think they did a damn good job considering all the situations going into the draft, holes needed to be filled, all of that. I think they did good. Moving back into the first round, they get a Xavier Leggett. They got a lead guy. They did what they needed to do, and that was help their number one draft pick from the previous year. Give him some help. They addressed it with wide receiver. Then they turned around and followed up with Jonathan Brooks. Jonathan Brooks could have been probably just a slightly earlier pick if it hadn't been for the injury. So he may not have ended up in Carolina if it had not been for the injury. The pickup of Trayvon Wallace was solid. You got guys that can step right into and some of them can be the man. Some of them can wait their spot and transition and develop. The first three picks that they have are all guys that can contribute outside of Jonathan's injury. Once he recovers from that, then, you got a guy that you took in your second pick that could be the lead to become your lead back, in a situation. Jatavion Sanders gives you an athletic tight end. That's another weapon. They tried to assess some things on the defensive end. I think they'll take a step back, especially since losing Burns and, on defense. But I think offensively, they may take a little bit of a step forward because they addressed some things in free agency to help that line. Protect their quarterback is what they did. And then they went and got him weapons. So I do stick by a B plus for them. What about you?
I give them a B as well. Almost, to be honest with you, I almost want to give them an A just for how bad they were last year and the hopes that you have from this year. Xavier Leggett, hometown kid in the mold of DK Metcalf and AJ Brown. Not necessarily the greatest route tree, but get him the ball fast. No DB is gonna want to tackle him. And he's got 4.3 speed. Jonathan Brooks I love the pickup because a lot of people had him as a number one back. Being able to get him where you got him, having Chuba Hubbard and Miles Sanders there to handle the workload until he gets going. To me, this draft screams future. Trayvon Wallace, I love that pickup. Shaq Thompson will be a free agent soon, and he's getting older. Jatavion Sanders, like you said, now you have a weapon. When you look at what Bryce has, what they did through free agency is they built up the line. What they did through the draft is allowed him to get young pieces around him for him to grow and develop with. security blanket and Jatavian Sanders. If you saw what he did at Alabama, he killed the tight end. He fed that tight end on the regular basis. I really love that pick. Shaw Smith Wade, I like that pick, and there's still talks of they could possibly bring in Stephon Gilmore back home because Jadeveon Clowney is there. And I got to shout out Michael Baird from my high school lounge, Valdosta, Georgia. The thing that I like about him is they talked about he has the most snaps in Michigan, but he was a quarterback in high school, so he went these last 4 or 5 years learning the linebacker position, but he can come in, contribute immediately on special teams. I love what the Carolina Panthers are doing, and what they have done is they have truly built around their rookie quarterback. And this is what I was trying to say about the Falcons. The Falcons aren't going to be awarded that luxury to truly build around. They're going to really have to finagle some things when it comes to cap, and they're going to have to do that quick. Carolina won't. If this coach and the coach that came from Tampa, he's used to having 2 solid wide receivers. He's used to having a solid offensive line. He'll get the ball out of Bryce's hand quick. I love everything that Carolina's doing right now.
Okay. All right, we're gonna transition to the Bears. Let me know what you think. You started off on this one, man.
To be honest, they won. There was one of my winners on the on D's corner on my winners and losers of the draft because they started off with 4 picks, ended up with 5. 3 or 4 of them should contribute immediately. Caleb Williams is going into the best situation that I can remember. A first overall pick quarterback going into. Having DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, solid offensive line, DeAndre Sweat. They picked up Gerald Everett, Cole Kmet tight end. He has weapons.
Yeah.
This should help him be able to play more on script. We know what he can do off script. The weapons that he has now, he should be able to start clicking and seeing how well he can operate on script. Being able to pick up Rome, that's now you have a quarterback and a wide receiver who they worked out together before or during the draft process. They flew to the draft together. Obviously, they left the draft together and flew to Chicago. Were introduced together. So literally now you have someone who can just grow and learn and develop and become professionals with Caleb Williams. Kieran, I'm not going to pronounce his last name. Should be able to come in and compete for a starting position on that offensive line somewhere immediately. The punter, it's a punter, but Austin Booker, some people thought he would go earlier than he did. Being able to get him, now you got Montez Sweat, a partner in crime on the edge. They get an A from me, man. They get an A from me.
I give him a B plus, and the only reason why is I look at this draft really hinges this year for them on their quarterback, of course, the number 1 pick. Considering they only had 5 picks, I wouldn't have taken a punter. But that's I wouldn't have taken a punter with only 5 picks. You probably could have signed him as an undrafted free agent or found you a punter. You know how that works. That's the only reason I give it a B plus or A minus is because you didn't have that many picks to start with in the draft. You only had 5. I'm not spending when I only have 5 on a punter. I'm not going to use that. I could have used that somewhere else. But we can transition because we don't have to harp on it with it. The Bengals. The Bengals, I like their top half. I give them a B. I like their first 4 to 5 picks. Solid. After that, look questionable here and there, but they did try to address needs. I don't understand why they took 2 tight ends in the draft. You took 2. Eric All is solid. I mean, he was solid at Michigan. He transfers to Iowa in a situation where
I think he got hurt, didn't he?
Yeah, he got hurt. Then he ends up transferring from Michigan. I mean, he was Michigan's lead tight end in 2022. And then on the championship year, you sit in Iowa in purgatory where they don't have an offense worth a damn, So I think that hurt his stock. He probably would have been a higher drafted tight end had it not been for him coming off injury and then the offensive system he transferred to. The interesting pickup of Matt Lee. I think this is a guy, I'm not going to be a homer and a rival thing considering he played a year at Miami. I think he's a solid center. I mean, he didn't test well, but his grade and his film is solid. I mean, he's a guy that doesn't give up a lot. He can be at times he can be bull rushed by much stronger D tackles, but I think that's something that can be improved slightly enough to where he could function and be an addition to a team, I wouldn't be surprised if eventually he becomes a starter for them. Um, because I think he's consistent in his snaps. He's smart. That's two things that are strengths for him. He moves well. It's just the point of attack. At times, he can be overwhelmed uh,
Hmm.
when better defensive tackles. But like I said, strength and conditioning. Continue to work on technique. You can kind of work on that. So I stick with giving him a B plus. I like the pickup of Chris Jenkins a lot. Amaris Mims gives you a solid pickup. I mean, 6'7", 340. He is young. He didn't play a lot of games at Georgia. So that's an iffy there. You know, his development now is going to be real important because he didn't stay in college long enough to get that full process of development there, but still go 18 overall, considering that he didn't have a lot of games. Jermaine Burton is a talent. I like good complimentary player. Could slide into that slot or fourth wide receiver
Hmm.
for them. I like that. But what do you got, man? Oh, Josh Newton too. I like that pickup.
That
Yeah,
was the first
go
place
ahead.
I
You
was going.
touch on it. You
That
touch
was the
on it
first
because I
place I
just
was
saw
going.
it. Yeah,
Yeah,
Josh Newton. Yeah.
he was considered going into the season as a potential first round corner.
Mm-hmm.
He was considered a potential first round corner. So I really, really, really like that pickup, especially where you got him, the great value and everything. Like the Matt Lee pickup, like you said, from where you got it. Amir Smith, the reason why I like the pickup is he's not gonna have to play immediately. You have
Yeah,
Orlando Brown at the left side, Trent Brown on the right side.
right side.
Now, could you get fancy and try to start him out at guard while he learns and develops?
Hmm.
You'll see because now he's aggressive.
Yeah.
He is aggressive, but when you look, both their tackles are 6'8". You get the biggest offensive lineman or one of the biggest offensive linemen. So like they are hell bent on protecting Joe Burrow. I'm all here for
Hmm.
that. Chris Jenkins, I love it. Legacy pick. You lost DJ Reader. Him
Yeah.
and McKinley Jackson should be able to come in and give you some of
Yes.
what Reader was doing.
Yeah.
Jermaine Burton seems to always find himself behind the secondary.
Yeah.
And what we know about Burrow's always had three wide receivers since he's been in the NFL. They
Hmm.
lost Tyler Boyd. I think Jermaine Burton come in and instantly be wide receiver 3.
Yeah.
Um, I give him a B as well. Like I told you, there's so many teams in this draft that I liked their draft, but I tried to keep my video as small as I could, so I didn't have an hour
Mhm.
video of 30 teams that I liked and 2 that I didn't. So,
Didn't like,
but
yeah.
yeah, I definitely give them a B. I definitely give them a
Okay.
B. I really like where they're moving.
Okay. We move on down the road. We stay in Ohio and we go to Cleveland. Uh, I give them a C minus D. Considering though that they didn't have a lot of picks, they
Hmm.
gave up so much in the Deshaun Watson trade, and it's still hitting them. I think they went and they stayed in their area, their footprint a little too much, being safe with Michael Hall Jr. from Ohio State, and then going back. The Zach Zinter pickup, I think, is solid. I think he'll
Hmm.
be able to eventually slide in, solid guard, good player. I like the Jamari Thrash. He gives them a little bit of a speed guy that can complement what they have in what is it, Donovan Peoples, and they still have
No, he went to the Lions. They got
he
Jerry
did
Judy
leave.
and Amari
Oh,
Cooper.
Jerry Judy. I know they had Jerry Judy, and they still have Amari Cooper. I was trying to come up with his name. I like that, but I do like the Jamari Thrash pick. He could slide in, as you spoke of on the previous team, into their third, even their second
Hmm.
wide receiver eventually. He does have some ability to stretch the field. He does have ability to go across. You can use him in reverse screen games, stuff like that. He can do a little bit of everything. But overall, I don't like the pick. I don't like the pick of Michael Hall at all. I think he's a solid player, but considering I would have to go back and look at the numbers of who went after him, and I
Hmm.
think they probably gave up. You know, taking him, you probably could have got better value at that pick than him. You could have probably ended up still getting him later in the draft. But what's your opinion, man?
I give them a C as well. They didn't have a lot of picks. If you want to count Jerry Judy as part of their draft class, then I could see maybe possibly a B.
Hmm.
Um, the Michael Hall pick, I'm okay with it because they have Dalvin Tomlinson,
Yeah,
um, Zadarius Smith at edge, Miles Garrett at edge. So he is someone who can bull rush. He's a smaller D tackle. And the thing is, what you're going to need him to do is win one on ones, and that's what he'll be able to do with
hmm,
what you have on the edge. we watched, I think it was the Steelers. They got a delayed game because Myles Garrett just kept bouncing left to right, left to right, left to right,
Yeah.
and their tight end kept following him. So when you're going to focus 2 or 3 players to one, you need players who can win one-on-one. I think Michael Hall should be able to do that. Zach Zinter, I like that pick. They're getting older at guard. Jamari Thrash, like we said, should definitely be able to come in and compete with David Bell and Elijah Moore for that slot third wide receiver. And Nathaniel Watson, I like that too because he's going to be flying all over the field. So,
Okay.
I mean, a C if you want to add Jerry Jeudy to it. I can see a B. But for what they had very little. You know, they didn't have anything in the first round. They were picking later in the second round. So to be able to get where they got, it was all right.
Okay. Well, what we'll do is we'll skip the Cowboys and we'll come back and talk about them when we get into our individual. So we'll move on to Denver. I see that they were given a B minus, but considering that first pick kind of shakes it up for me, so I give them a C minus. I don't like the Bo Nix pick there, but I understand because at that point they were reaching, all the quarterbacks were off the board. So what do you do when you need one? Obviously we weren't in their draft room, so we don't know how aggressive they were in trying to move up to be able to get a higher graded quarterback at that position. So I think that was really kind of like a panic pick. We need to just go in and take him. He's the next best one on the board, or we're going to end up possibly trying to get Spencer Rattler in that situation. I do like the pickup of Jonah Ellis. I mean, he's a Utah legacy, and his dad played in the league. Luther. Getting Troy Franklin at that spot, it complements. I can see where they're trying to get someone that Bo Nix would be comfortable throwing the ball to in development, and it fills a need in which they just lost Jeudy in a trade. So they go and fill that role. I think he's one of them guys that development in his route running and consistency, trying to focus on catching the pass, in which we saw in some of his combine performances that was a little shaky, but his film is solid. It's solid film. It's not great, but it's solid. I do like it. I like the pickup, interestingly, of Audric Estime. I don't think they're not bringing him in to break no long runs. I mean, this guy's a thumper. He's a sledgehammer. So you're telling us now that okay, we're bringing him in as a possibility. We're going to try to create an identity of physical football. Trenches, push the pile, move the chains, kind of identity. That's also on defense with Jonah Ellis. He's a lunch pail kind of guy. So I do give it but I do stick with what I said. It because of the Knicks picking where they had to take him. It's a C minus for me overall. The later picks were great, but just the first pick really drug down their draft grade overall, in my opinion. What about you?
I'm gonna give him a C. The Bo Nix pick, in my opinion, that's almost dropped to a D. The only reason I give him a C is because you do kind of help alleviate his growth by giving him his number one target from college. I like the Jonah Ellis pick. Chris Abrams Drain is a smaller corner. We'll see how he'll hold up in, as the number 2 opposite of Patrick Surtain. Like I said, he's a really good corner. He's just small, and I think when you think about the other teams that they'll have to go up against, those physicality, some of these receivers are physical. How are you going to match their physicality being outweighed by so much? I like the Estime pick as well. Like you said, he's more of a battering ram. I think they have Javonte Williams, a couple years from North Carolina. We don't know. I know he was injured, but it was an undrafted rookie, I think, that took a lot of carries from him last year. No, Sean Payton's gonna try to run the ball. I am not a fan of Bo Nix. I've stated that for a long time. I don't see Bo Nix isn't competing with Justin Herbert and Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, no, so that's not moving the needle. No,
that's not. This team is. Denver Broncos are the last team in the AFC West next year.
Yeah, they'll be drafting a quarterback again next year.
They'll be drafting a quarterback,
or at least 2 years from now. They'll be drafting another quarterback. Moving on to Detroit. They NFL gave them a B, man. What is your opinion? You go ahead and touch on it. I'll follow. Yeah,
A.
I love it.
I love their. First of all, when you look at again, trying to focus on the draft, but when
Yeah.
you got to talk free agency before you ever talk to the draft, they did really good in free agency.
Mm-hmm.
Then they started re-signing. St. Brown got a big deal during the
Mm-hmm.
draft. Terry and Arnold, some had him as the number one DB, the number one corner. For you to get him at 24 because of
Yep.
how those first 13, 14 picks
Mm-hmm.
shaped out, and then doubling down on the cornerback position with
Enos Rakestraw.
Rakestraw,
Mm-hmm.
man, both of them are physical. Both of them can
Mm-hmm.
get their hands on the ball. Both of them can match up. Plus, you traded for Carlton Davis.
Mm-hmm.
Last year, what we saw, especially against the San Francisco 49ers, their
Mm-hmm.
corners let them down. They were playing undrafted guys. Kendall Valdor is a guy I think out of Georgia Southern. It was a later round guy. But when you look at everything that they did, I even like the Christian Mahogany pick to get him so late. There, some people
You
had
took
him.
it
Some
from me.
people had him expected to go earlier. To get him in the seventh, that's a
Uh,
great pickup.
yeah.
Makai Wingo, loved him. The Sion Baki,
Yeah. Sione Baki. Yeah.
he'll be a special teamer, but
Mm-hmm.
he's like the I think his name is Gonzalez, linebacker that last year they started putting him at tight end too, because he could play safety and running back. He played both
Oh, okay.
he played both at
Utah.
Utah. He
Okay.
played both at Utah. If I'm not mistaken, he started out at safety. They had some injuries at running back,
Uh-huh.
started giving him some carries. So he's going to be a guy that's going to come in and be a special teamer and being able to play multiple positions on multiple sides, on both sides of the ball, as
Mm-hmm.
well as all three phases of football: kickoff, special teams, offense, and defense. So I think I
You
give them an
loved
A
it.
plus.
Okay.
I loved their pickup, especially when you think about your parent Arnold with Brian Branch from last year. They
Mm-hmm.
played together at Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah. I'll follow up. I give it an A to solid A. Addressing the secondary needs, continue to address the Achilles heels that killed him in the playoffs. Um,
Yes,
you kind of stole my thunder a little bit with the
my
Christian
bad.
Mahogany because you good, but yeah, because he had a lot of injuries at Boston College,
Mm-hmm.
injury issues, and then the fact that they had a lot of transition and they continue to have transition. Like you said, he was a guy that was projected to go at one point, probably late first round into your second round at one point. I love the Makai Wingo pickup. Very active defensive tackle. I think that's a guy that's going to hit the rotation and hit it hard. And he's going to be a very big surprise, not only for the team, but I wouldn't be surprised if you hear him as a possible defensive rookie kind of
Mm,
conversation. I do, because he's a very active defensive tackle, and he's in a spot where he does not have to start. So that gives him free will. He'll be able to come in there and just cause havoc. And then
right.
he was on a bad LSU defense. He was one of the many bright spots that they did have that wasn't
Mm-hmm.
necessarily talked about. I know he can't. He pretty much. And I'm gonna close out with this. When he played my team FSU, he jumped out a lot. I mean, he was one
Yeah.
of the big bright spots in that game that was very active. We had to account for him often in that game. And I think he's a steal where they got him at 189. Perfect. We go to Green Bay, stay in the NFC North, and I give them a solid B plus. I like what they did. They addressed the offensive line with Jordan Morgan, then turned around. I kept saying that they were going to get the kid from NC State, and they turned around and got the best one. I think the kid from NC State was probably the second, in my opinion, best linebacker
Mm-hmm.
in the draft class. They turned around and was able, because of all the quarterbacks taken, to get the best linebacker in the draft, and Edwin Cooper. Perfect. He'll be able to slide right there in the middle, playing next to what's his name? We're number 7, I believe, at linebacker for Green Bay. I can't remember his name, but anyways,
I had it on my mind,
yeah,
getting ready to talk about it, and I forget Walker, Quay
Walker.
Walker,
Yeah, Quay Walker.
Quay
He'll be able to
Walker.
slide right in next to Quay Walker. Fits the system. Get downhill. He can cover. Very active. He'll be able to get after the court. You can use him to get after the quarterback, chase down the run. Perfect. 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 He's another guy that actually when I was talking to Crow and we talked about TJ
Mm-hmm.
Tampa, he brought him up too, because Crow had slid into our draft on the spaces we did, draft party,
Mm-hmm.
watch party. And he was talking about him too, because he had a hand in coaching him, because Crow was on the Texas A&M staff at one
Yeah.
point,
Yeah.
and he had said that Edrin is one of the big steals, in the draft. I can agree. I like the Marshawn Lloyd. He'd be a good complementary as a third guy. He could be your kind of guy that can be the third down back, catch passes.
Mhm.
Where you have Dylan still there, who's your battering ram. Jacobs is more your balance. He can be power and he can be finesse. Marshawn gives you completely the guy that can a little bit take the top off, but he can definitely be your third down specialist and catching passes for you. Um, the Kalen King, and that's I'm gonna transition to you, Kalen King. Getting him where they had him, to be honest, in my opinion, I think it wasn't the tape that made him drop. It was a little bit of his height and a little bit of his combine performance is what made him drop. I mean, he's a guy that very easily could have went second round. I mean, if we're going pre-draft and going into the 2023 season in college, he would have been a higher draft pick coming into that draft. But some of his combine performances weren't necessarily stellar for where he's at, but his film is there and he's solid. What do you got to say about the Green Bay Packers?
I like their draft as well. I give them a B plus.
Mm-hmm.
You lose Bakhtiari, pick up Jordan Morgan is great. I loved Edric Cooper. Try not to talk too much about it. I thought that they would get Cooper DeJean. I thought he was a player that screamed Green Bay to me just because he's so versatile. Javon Bullard is very similar. Javon Bullard is more of a safety, but he can line up in nickel. He can play all over that secondary. Marshawn Lloyd, I love the pickup. Like you said, they're going to try to run the ball this year. I think that's what we can depict from what some of their moves. They went heavy in their secondary. Oladapo, I like that pickup as well. Tyron Hopper is also a good pickup. Can be a rotational linebacker. But Kalen King, another one that was talked about could possibly be a first round pick this year, going into the college football season. I think he slid because, like you said, height, and he ran an extremely slow 40. No one was expecting that. He looked stiff and whatnot. But he's a player that can probably come in and play slot, and they'll probably play him in at the safety position as well. Definitely give you special teams
help
impact immediately. So I like what Green Bay's done. This division, the NFC North, this division is going to be a tough division.
Yeah,
it's going to be a tough division.
Yeah. So everybody, even though there's a stretch with Detroit and Green Bay, they're not as big as a gap as we
it's not
think
a huge
when it comes
gap.
to Minnesota and Chicago being able to get right in that mix. Yeah. Man, touch on the Houston Texans, man. I mean, it's one of the rich gets richer.
Yeah. I give them an A, man.
So you give them an A?
I give them an A because when I looked at it and looking at their roster, Lassiter fits them perfectly. Lassiter is a smaller corner. He can come in and play slot. He doesn't have to play immediately because he can learn from Desmond King. Once he gets on the field for DeMeco Ryans, and he fits like that mentality. He fits what DeMeco Ryan wants to do. Kalen Bullock. I love that pick. I was hoping the Colts would go after because we needed a safety. He got size, he got range, and if I'm not mistaken, they may have introduced him as a corner. I don't remember, but he has versatility in that secondary. And then when you go and you get C.J. Stroud, one of his weapons from college, and Cade Stover, this team is going to be so versed on on offense with the weapons that they have at receiver. Now they have 3 tight ends, Schultz, Brevin Jordan, and then you pick up Cade Stover.
Yeah,
this team is going to be dangerous, and I like the Ladarius Henderson because he'll come in early as a backup guard, but he has the potential to become a starter. He has the potential to become a starter. So I like him. I give him an A.
Okay. I can see I was a little questionable on the Kamari Lassiter, but I can understand where if you're looking at fit, then he is a good fit for them. So I can see why they got it. They got an A overall. That's probably the one pick that I'm not necessarily that high on. With that take, I would have to go back, like I said previously, and look at who went after him and who they possibly could have gotten that would have complimented. But I understand they went more for fit. I love the Marcus Harris pick, and I like in particularly Jamar Jordan. even though they do have Joe Mixon and Pierce, those guys are more your sledge to your balance power. He's going to give you a guy that can take the top off.
Yep.
So, I mean, he could slide right in there, sort of like what we discussed with Marshawn Lloyd with Green Bay
Mm-hmm.
and what I said. He's a guy that gives you a change of pace. You can bring him in on third downs. You can even probably possibly flex him a little bit, definitely throw him the ball and allow him to use his speed and space. I like that. The Marcus Harris it's another body that can be a rotational piece. He's active, be
That's
able
what they
to,
like.
yeah, he's very active
Mm-hmm.
on the line of scrimmage, so I can understand that pick. I respect what they did because, like you said, they answered um, holes that they needed, which they didn't have a lot of holes. So
Right.
that automatically makes it a high value draft. They got a lot of great value picks for where they're at now, and it actually this screams physical. This
Yes.
draft screams physical to me. It
They
screams we're
have
going to get at, yeah,
identity.
yeah. It screams
They have
identity.
an
Yeah,
identity. They
uh-huh.
have an
Offensively,
identity.
we're going to be physical. Defensively, we're going to be physical. You win or lose, you're going to know you played us.
And you're gonna
Yeah.
hate it. You're gonna hate that you
Hmm.
played us.
Yeah. So I see where it's the Colts, so we're going to skip over them, and we'll come back when we revisit
All right.
Jacksonville. Um, the professionals gave him an A- here. I give him a B plus, maybe a B minus. Considering all the things they did. Now this Brian Thomas situation looks a little different now that they let Crazy Zay go.
Yeah.
You know, Crazy
Yeah.
Zay. So now that pick where you questioned it now looks like okay,
Now it's a
I
little
can
bit
give
more
that an
clear.
A. It's clear. I love the
Hmm.
pickup of Mason Smith. It's a little questioning still because he's 2 years removed from it, but he's still trying to find himself again since he's had that Achilles, I believe, injury he had 2 years
Hmm.
ago. The Jerry and Jones pick, I love it, and it's not being a homer. They're getting a guy that if you put him and play to his strengths, if they slide him in the nickel, they're going to get a very productive nickel corner.
Right.
I mean, if you keep him in that role, I'm not saying he can't play outside, but I know what I saw in the years in development at FSU when he found his home in the nickel, he was the top rated defensive back PFF grade wise in the country. Pass breakups, he had 2 interceptions, I believe, last year, and then one of them was for a touchdown. He locked up any slot, and he was able to also complement in switching off and passing off onto the number one slot guy. And a lot of those teams that we played had elite level of decent slots shut down. He is a
Didn't he?
shutdown slot corner.
Didn't he lock up neighbors when y'all played LSU?
No, that was Green.
Was that
That
the
was
other one?
when we
That
get
was
to
the
San
other one.
Francisco. Yeah,
Okay.
what it
Okay.
was is one is still at FSU. That's
Hmm.
Cypress. We had another one that's probably going to be a first round pick in next year's draft, if not a second. That's Cesaria Thomas. We'll get to
Okay.
talking to him when we talk about next year's draft. Jarian particularly played nickel. It was
Gotcha.
Cypress, Jarian in the slot, and Renato Green playing the
Green.
outside.
That's the one
Green.
that they were
That's the
showing the
one
highlights of.
who not only when we get to San Francisco, we'll touch
I
on
got you.
Green.
I
But
got you.
just going to I think going back to Jacksonville, I think they fall in love a little too much with the LSU picks. They do it a little too often, and every time they've done it, it's not necessarily worked out. I mean, Leonard Fournette was solid. What's the one that called himself the sack master that they finally just came up off of the
Caleb
defensive end?
on chasing.
Jason, yeah. Um, they do this to themselves. I don't necessarily like the Jordan Jefferson pick. Mason is okay, but it's question marks there. It's still question marks a lot. Um, I really don't have anything else. I like Javon Foster a little bit as a pick. I mean, it's putting a body in there that if you can develop and it gives you some depth pieces. You know, they did have some question marks on offensive line. They assessed another weapon to give Trevor and Brian Thomas, but the Jerry Jones pick in particular, I do like. He gets to stay in the state of Florida. He'll be able to instantly slide in at nickel. I mean, that stands out the most to me is
Yeah.
of the picks they got outside of Brian Thomas was him. But what do you say?
I give him a B as well. I like Brian. I like the Brian Thomas pick, and it, like you said, it makes more sense now
Hmm.
with Zay Jones being gone. I
Hmm.
wasn't. I wasn't really understanding of both Mason Smith and Jordan Jefferson when they brought
Hmm.
in Armstead from San Francisco. I
Hmm.
liked it. I liked the Jerry and Jones pick was another player I was hoping would be able to slide and fall to the Colts. Javon Foster gives them a player who can come in and develop and then either become the left or right tackle of the future next year.
Mhm.
I like DeAndre Prince just for his measurements and whatnot. But overall, like this is the same GM when he was with San Francisco. He drafts traits, but you never really know. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's always still. I feel like even if I don't know how the experts gave him an A, but even with that, like, you still have questions. You know what I'm saying? Like, you still have questions.
Did they do enough to help their
Right,
franchise
right,
quarterback? I don't think they
right.
did enough.
I don't think so either.
Yeah, and being around some folks in the Jacksonville fan base, and like James covers the
Mm-hmm.
he covers the Jackson. Trent Baalke, they do not like Trent Baalke. Trent Baalke, they've been wanting him gone.
Gone.
It's like 1 minute he'll surprise them and he'll make them happy, and then the next minute he'll piss them off with 2-3 picks. They took Jordan Jefferson when they could have had Mekhi Wingo. I think that would have been a better process. Even Mason Smith, I would have taken actually Mekhi Wingo over both of them at this point. And the only reason over Mason is because of the injury history. But we don't have to harp on it. We move on to the defending Super Bowl champion, Kansas City Chiefs. I love it.
Love it.
Another rich gets richer.
Yep.
Another rich kid. The only thing I was disappointed they didn't take some of the guys I wanted them to take that I feel that would have been able to become stars with the great quarterback, the Xavier Worthy pick. You know how I felt. I have no qualms or issues with Xavier Worthy. If Xavier Worthy did what he ran, produced what he produced on film, and he was 200 pounds or at least 195, he actually, in my opinion, is no less than a second wide receiver off the board.
Right.
But because he's 155, that's where I question. But considering where he's going now, it's like one of them situations we just mentioned with Jacksonville. He's in a perfect situation. He does not have to be the man. You put out his ass in the slot. We turn now Kansas City's offense, where their worst offense that they had with Patrick Mahomes, still won the Super Bowl. You're looking at probably, even though they're not on turf, as a greatest show on turf kind of situation now. This is Azir Hakim, in my opinion. This is a guy that can slide right in. He's going to take so much more pressure off of an aging Kelsey, because now you have to keep a safety over the top. You cannot dedicate covering. You're going to have linebackers that can really man on man, one-on-one with Kelsey. And we have not seen linebackers that can do that yet, even at this part, this stage in his career. Worthy's going to put so much pressure on a defensive coordinator just because of his speed and ability to go over top. And then you add that with Hollywood Brown and the other pieces they have. And then when they get Rice back, the Kingsley Suamataia, love it. You just addressed the need with a guy that possibly could have went higher than you took him. You got a good quality tackle at that position. And he gives you at least a rotational swing tackle, or if not a starter right off the bat. In that pick. I like the Hunter Norzad out of Penn State, another offensive lineman. It's going to give you a little physicality up front. Another, as I said, a body that you can develop. You don't have to slide him in and start early. You can develop him to be a rotational, depth piece. Great, love it. What about you?
I loved it. Same as you. I give him an A. When you got Xavier Worthy, not only did you get him, you traded up to get him. You traded with the Buffalo Bills.
Mm-hmm.
You got speed for days now when you have Hollywood on one side, Xavier on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
Rice is going to do the dirty work, getting in the middle with his big body. I had always talked about, as we were doing draft coverage and even our mock drafts, of them getting someone who could be an understudy, so to speak, to Travis Kelce. Jared Wiley is a sneaky guy that I like. He was a quarterback. He was a high school quarterback, similar to Kelce. Is going to be able to come in and literally just learn and grow. I like that position. I like that pick. Jaden Hicks. Jaden Hicks was a player that some thought he could go in the second round. Being able to come in, and he's not going to necessarily have to start now, but Jordan Reed is a free agent after this season. He should be able to come in and fill that position once they let Jordan Reed go. Similar to Kamal Hayden, the DB from Tennessee. You lost L'Jarius Sneed. Let's make sure that we're just still putting bodies to to the position, but their
Mhm.
first 3-4 picks should make an immediate
Good.
impact.
Mhm.
Should make an immediate impact
Yeah.
within the next 2 years.
Yeah, they're gonna stick on the roster, and they're gonna.
Yeah,
You probably drafted 4 starters eventually. Four
this team,
starters.
I do not see right now how this team is not going to be in the playoffs, and we know what they do once they get to the playoff.
Yeah.
Based off of every other team in their division, and I know we haven't touched on them all yet. I
Hmm.
think the only ones that we didn't talk about Chargers yet. Who do we talk about? The Broncos.
Broncos.
They're
That's the only team. Hmm.
so they're fourth. Chiefs are first. We'll figure out 2 and 3.
Yeah,
That's
that's
pretty
pretty
much
much
how
it.
that's
The
pretty
rest
much
of
how it
us, you
goes.
pretty much can throw the paper in a hat and shake it up and
That's it.
pick
Yep.
it like that. But since we're
The,
there, you
I
go ahead
said
and
the Raiders
transition
are
to the
next.
Raiders. Go ahead
The
and
Raiders are
transition to the
next.
Raiders, man. What you think?
This was one of my biggest losers. This was one of my biggest losers. Now, just because they were one of my biggest losers doesn't mean I didn't like some of the picks. I
Yeah,
loved Brock Bowers as a prospect. I
yeah,
just don't understand the pick. I don't understand the pick. You have so many weapons,
yeah,
so many groceries. Who's cooking? Who's your trigger man?
yeah.
Gardner Minshew's a good quarterback.
Hmm.
He's a good backup quarterback. When he's coming in to start, I just didn't like it. I love the pickup of Jackson Powers Johnson. They called him a
Hmm.
guard. He should be able to, help with the running with the rushing attack.
Hmm.
Same thing with DJ Glaze.
Glaze.
The Camryn Richardson is a good solid pickup. Tommy Eichenberg should be a tackling machine, and Lobb is more of
David
a
Lobb.
is more of a weapon. He'll
Hmm.
probably be more of a return guy as
Hmm.
well. But I'm this was Antonio Pierce's shot. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
this was your chance to put your impact.
Hmm.
Your imprint on the Raiders. And this is another team, man. It's like where's our direction? Where are we going? Because not like then you start thinking about other players. What's Devontae Adams feeling like?
Yeah.
What's Devontae Adams feeling like? Man, I'm gonna be 31. I can't
I'm
play
in
forever.
I'm in
Yeah,
purgatory right now.
I can't
Yeah.
play forever. I
Yeah.
signed to come here to play with my buddy from college. Y'all got rid of him.
Hmm.
Now Aiden O'Connell and Gardner Minshew are my next options. That
It
I
makes no
just
sense, man.
yeah.
I personally give it a C
That's what I
minus.
didn't know if I graded it, but I gave it
Yeah.
a C as well.
Yeah, C minus, and it's just like you, man. It gets it for the overall. Some of the
Yeah.
individual pieces are great. Brock Bowers is
Yes.
great, but you just drafted Michael
Yes.
Mayer the year before. What are we doing? Jackson Powers Johnson, great pickup. I'll MJ Devonshire. That's the name I want you to watch out for.
Yes.
Uh, I don't know exactly the defense that the Raiders are playing, but he comes out of the cover three shell under that Michigan State at Pittsburgh. What's his
Mm-hmm.
name? I can't remember the head coach, but uh solid DB. I'm telling you, he's a solid guy. I think he's a guy he will make the roster and minimum special teams, but he's a guy that I could see being your slot guy or your third corner eventually, or third DB overall. He's physical. He's a playmaker. Uh, Pittsburgh just had I think he had a better 22 than he did last year.
Yeah.
But then Pittsburgh overall had a better 22 than they had 23, I believe.
And that
Uh,
hurts the players.
yeah, that hurts the players. Um, but one more thing, I'll speak on Pierce. I know he doesn't make all of the additional, this is a GM and
Right.
owner pick too, but Pierce was on the staff at Arizona State that had, like I mentioned before, you had Jaden Daniels, Johnny Wilson, Ricky Pearsall, and some other players. He's had Brandon Ayuk, and he did nothing.
Yep.
He did nothing. So this is what when I see what's drafted, it's kind of an example. It's like, okay, you got good players, but you're not. It's like it looks like a hodgepodge mess because it's
Your
like,
quarterbacks that you got to
yeah,
go against are Herbert and Mahomes.
yeah, and you take Brock Bowers with the
Yeah, it does.
13th overall. Now, like we don't know what was going on in the war room, and if they tried to make an attempt to move up to try to get a quarterback. You see what I'm saying? If that's what you're going to do, then you should have been dedicated and just said, okay, we give up the 13th. Because if you're going to go get a quarterback, if you really wanted Jaden Daniels, you would have did what you had to do. I mean, you didn't want to mortgage the farm. I get it. But then you turned around and you made what I look like with Denver, a panic pick. You just took the best available on the board. which he's the best available on the board, one of the best, probably the best 5 prospects in the draft, this year's draft overall. But were y'all considering what you did last year? He wasn't a necessity. You don't take a tight end at your first pick, especially following up a tight end. You already have an established. Michael Mayer is an established, growing young prospect in which you used. He was productive his rookie year. What's going on? Are y'all running
Yeah,
12? Are you running 13 personnel? What are we doing? But yeah, I don't like it. We
I don't like
transition
it.
now to the Chargers. First pick, I give it an A plus. Lad, I don't know. I get it considering where they picked him at number 34. You may have been looking for maybe Keon at 33. You see what I'm saying? If he was still there, you may have taken Keon a little bigger body. Lad is probably one of the better route runners of the receivers in this
Right.
draft. I like that, but if he's not a number one, so I'm looking at your roster and your wide receivers, and they're not scaring me when you have a big arm quarterback, but is Herbert that kind of guy like a Mahomes, like a Rodgers in his prime? You see what I'm saying?
Right.
Can he
Right.
make the receiving core better
Is
as a
everyone around him gonna
quarterback?
be better?
Better.
Yep.
He needs a guy. To me, he needed a guy that can at least be a legit number 2 at that point in the draft where they drafted. Lad is a legit 3. I don't think Lad is a 1. Lad is
He's
a
a slot. He's more
complimentary.
slot
Yeah,
guy. Yeah.
he's a complimentary receiver to a 1. You could slide him in as a 2 if you got a strong number 1. In my opinion, I don't think you drafted him as a like. Okay, is this a 1? You drafted him to be your 1. Makes no
Right.
sense to me. The Cam Hart pick, I love. I love the
Yes.
Cam Hart. I think he's one of the more slept on DBs that was drafted. I love it. Maybe they think they can get something out of Brendan Rice, but when you see the Brendan Rice pickup and you see the Cornelius Johnson pickup, that to me screams you're not sure about Lad as your number 1. You just drafting a bunch of bodies in the room and gonna try to throw shit at the wall basically and figure this out. And I'm not calling any of those receivers shit.
Yeah, I
I'm
get
not
what you're
calling
saying.
Lad shit, but it's like their mindset is okay. We're trying to get a number 1. Okay, you get a route runner, like I said, but what are we doing? What is your opinion though, man? I mean,
I
I give
like.
him
I
a
like.
B.
I give him a B as well. I like
Yeah,
the Joe Alt pick.
yeah.
I like Junior Colson, and I
Mhm.
like the Cornelius Johnson pick because those are players who are going to help grow
Mhm.
the identity of the team. They know the coach. They came from college with him.
Yeah, I can understand that.
Junior Colson that should be a Junior Colson probably come in and wear the green dot and make all the calls defensively.
Hmm.
Because if I'm not mistaken, he brought his defensive coordinator with him as well.
Hmm.
Um, like I said, I love the Cam Hart pick. I thought that this would be a team that would go after Blake Corum.
Hmm.
The Brendan Rice pickup, his route tree isn't as great, as
He's an effort guy.
he's
He's
an
gonna give
effort
you
guy.
effort.
Yeah,
He's
yeah,
gonna give
yeah.
you
His
effort. He's a worker.
route
Hmm.
tree's not necessarily great. That you would think coming from a Hall of Fame player. He's not Marvin Harrison.
Yeah,
He's not Marvin Harrison Jr.
yeah.
when it comes to the
But
route
considering
tree.
who his dad is, you think
Right,
he'd be more
right.
polished in that area.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So the lad, like I said, he's more of a slot guy in my opinion as well. Um, I, they'll probably if we're going strictly off quarterback, they should be the second team in the division, but
Yeah.
they could easily be third because
Third.
this
Yeah.
roster, especially offensively, is not built to where it needs to be yet.
Yeah. It is. It doesn't have the identity.
Right.
All right. We transition and we stay at LA. Back in Cali again. I give it an
I
A
like
minus
it.
to A plus. Solid A at the minimum A. I know there was an article written about Braden and thinking that the Rams gave up too much. I'm not going to be a homer, so I'm not going to speak. I'll let you speak more on the Verse and Fist pick, and I'll go down to an interesting pick in which Cameron Kitchens. I I'm not going to speak on. I'm speaking strictly from football, not no Miami tie, nothing. I think this is a perfect spot for him because he actually has an opportunity to slide in as a starter,
As a
even though he was
starter.
picked at 99. And his instinct is good. He has great instincts. Sometimes it can burn him, which we know ball hawks that can happen to ball hawk type
It
safeties.
happens. Part
Yeah,
of the
it
game.
happens. but this is a guy that can slide in and be a playmaker in the secondary for you. If you can tame the propensity to stray sometimes, which can kill a team because he can kill his team and then he can save his team. Um, I would like to see a
Right.
little bit more
Right.
physicality from him, a little bit more consistency in that area. He did have some bonehead kind of moments at times while at Miami, but I'll equate that to some of the coaching and more the atmosphere he was in. But I think that is a great pick. I'll
Hmm.
speak on that. I like the Blake Corum pick also. Teaming him with Kyron Williams, you getting your little backs that basically run between
Yeah.
they can't run between the tackles. They can actually give you a little physicality more than you think. Corum is not a burner like his teammate at Michigan Edwards is, but he'll give you a guy that can carry and complement Kyron. And these are two guys that can give you 15 to 20 carries a game. In the old way, they would be 25 to 30 carry guys, even though at their build, they can still
Hmm.
carry the ball. I like Jordan Whittington. He's a complimentary guy, but
Yep.
considering that they took Puka Nakua and then before that Cooper Cup, I'm not going to question them getting wide receivers late because they
Right.
draft wide
Right.
receivers late and they freaking turn out to be dogs. So I'm not going to
And
question
he
that.
blocks. He
And he
blocks.
blocks. Yeah, he
He
blocks.
blocks.
But one more thing I just bring up once again, the Cameron Kitchens pick, I actually love it. I mean, we trolled it that day because he got drafted late when a lot of Miami fans thought he was a projected first pick or first safety off
Right.
the board. But considering the value and where they got him and the upside is still there, even though his 40 time wasn't great, you're getting a guy that probably could play in the league 10 years and be a
Right.
solid contributor to maybe even a fringe pro bowler. It depends. But you go ahead. What's your opinion? I give them a solid A, man.
I give him an A as well. I
Mhm.
know when we first talked, you weren't really sure if you liked Verse going there. I
Mhm.
liked it, and then when you pick up Braden Fisk,
Mhm.
um, what I did like about them was they were both transfers into the Florida State program.
Mhm.
And when they transferred into it, their mindset was, let's get this back to where it was.
Mhm.
Let's get this defense, this team back to where it was. And I think that's a good mindset to have when you got those two building blocks on your defense going into the
Mhm.
NFL together. I like Tyler Davis. You
Mhm.
lose, and the thing that I kept saying about the retirement of Aaron Donald is you're not going to fix it with one person. That's going to be by committee. And when you look,
Mhm.
Tyler Davis, Brennan Jackson, Braden Fish, Jared Verse should all
Actually,
play,
4. Yeah.
yeah, should all play parts in that.
Mhm.
I love the Cameron Kitchens pickup as well, and I
Mhm.
like the Jordan Winnington pick because he is a blocking wide receiver. He'll probably be wide receiver 4, start off special teams and whatnot, but I think he's a kid that'll make the team. I
Mhm.
definitely think he'll make the team.
Mhm.
You got to think what he had at Texas, when you had A.D. Mitchell and you had Xavier
Mhm.
Worthy in front of you, but he still made plays when his number was called.
Was
And
called.
I
Mhm.
think that's the type of guy. Every all the draft picks can't come in and just be the guy.
Guy.
Some of them have to be the guy for the role, and
Mhm.
I think that's exactly what Whittington is.
Mhm.
So I
Well,
give him
now
an A.
okay. One more thing. Now that you spoke on it, I don't want to be biased. I think the motor and the compliment. I didn't like the verse pickup at first, but I think how they'll be able to use them in those rotational pieces. Now you add them
Yeah,
with Young, and like you said, it's they kind of attack the Donald situation by attacking it with bodies, but productive
right.
players in that position. So we're not going to get one guy to equal his production, but what we'll do is we'll spread it out and add it with what we picked up last year. Our overall defense should be better. We're going to miss Donald, but overall, we should be a lot better as an
Yes,
overall defense.
yes.
Overall, yeah. So we transition to the Miami Dolphins. I didn't like it. I'm gonna be honest with you. It's some good. This is like the Raiders. It's some solid pieces. I like some of the pieces, but I'm not big on everything. The Chop Robinson pickup, considering you took him at 21, and you probably could have gotten a little better. I think I didn't like. I don't like the fit there. I think you should have went D tackle. In my opinion, they should have went D tackle there. I like the Patrick Paul pickup and the Jalen Wright. I like the pickup, but I question what you're gonna do with
Right.
Mostert and A Chain. What the hell? You need another speedy kind of versatile running back that could catch passes. I mean, what's the point? What's the point of it? The biggest pickup that I like The two pickups is Muhammad Kamara, Kansas State. This is a guy that, I mean, he's when you watch the film, when you watched his film, when I watched his film and I seen some film and I actually watched the what was the game they played Colorado. The dude was
Colorado.
a freaking terror. I
Yes.
mean, and other games he played and he's very productive. He was a guy who went in the portal and there was a lot of interest from a lot of schools that
Hmm.
were bigger P5 schools that were like, yeah, but then when he found out he had a good, decent draft grade and he stuck with it, I like that pick. Malik Washington, I love it. Special teams guy, the size is the only reason he wasn't a higher rated pick because this
He's
guy
five
was,
eight.
yeah, he's 5'8", but he's a guy that was everything for Virginia on a team that is transitioning, still trying to win. I think will be a better program overall going down the road. And he'll be one of the guys that'll be remembered for getting them there. But this guy last year at 5'8" was very, very productive. Put the ball in his hands, receiving, rushing, special teams, whatever it is. He's a freaking football player. So I love the pickup. The Taj Washington pickup, I like that too. Solid player, of course, coming out of that Lincoln Riley offense. Got open a lot, made plays. But overall, it's really the Chop Robinson pick and the Jalen Wright pick, not
For
the
you.
players. Yeah, it's not the
Yeah.
players. Those are good players. It's just where they were drafted to. With Miami, I don't see what was your angle and what are you trying to do here. The other picks I love. Those two picks drag it down and give it like a B minus, which is what we see in a C plus kind of draft. But what do you say?
Uh, I give him. I give him a. I'm gonna give him a B.
Okay.
The reason why I'm gonna give him a B, I felt like they needed an offensive line. To be honest with you, I'm gonna give him a C because I'm leaning more towards C because
Mhm.
Powers Johnson went in the second round. He's a player that I thought could come in and anchor your line.
Exactly.
Now I know Connor Williams is someone that they signed maybe last season or whatever. He's a free
Uh-huh.
agent. Maybe he could come. Maybe they could bring him back.
Right. Mhm.
The Chop Robinson and the Muhammad Kamara pickups are questionable to me, but then I start thinking next year you're gonna have to pay Tua. So are we gonna release Bradley Chubb or trade Chubb? What are we
Mhm.
gonna do with Jalen Phillips? Because both of them are coming off serious injuries. You did bring in Shaq Barrett, so heavy on the edge. I know Kamara can come in and rush from the inside linebacker as well.
Mhm.
I like the Malik Washington pickup, similar to you,
Mhm.
because especially Tyreek said once this contract is done, he's done. He's going to
Got it.
retire.
Yeah.
So I think that's good. You got someone who can come in and possibly learn from and
Mhm.
maybe be set up to replace him. The Jalen Wright, I just felt like they had more. I felt like they had more holes,
Mhm.
and you went with places that were, in my opinion, already some are too deep.
Yeah. You didn't
You're
address
some of your
the
places.
you
Yeah, you
you
didn't
lose
address
Chris-
needs.
yeah, you lost Christian Wilkins, and I don't see you address that in the draft
Nope.
with a younger player when you
Or
had
free agency.
yeah, or free agency. You didn't address it. So yeah, I don't like it. We move on to Minnesota, man. I see the experts gave them a B plus. I give them a C minus to C. Dallas Turner's the reason why they get that C. I
Right.
like the Dallas Turner pick. I mean, this is a guy you made a slide in. You lose Donnell. You do replace it through free agency with what's that, Grinky? Am I right with
Van
his name?
Ginkel.
Van
Van
Ginkel. I
Ginkel.
couldn't remember pronounce the name, but Van Ginkel. So you
And Green, and they get that Greenard or Greenyard from
yeah.
the
Mhm.
Texans too.
Yeah. So you addressed it through free agency, trying to make up for losing Danielle Hunter, and then you drafted a guy that can be your possible future Danielle there. The JJ McCarthy, it's because of my own personal questions and where you drafted him is not the problem, is that you drafted him is a problem for me.
Yeah.
I think a lot of hype is behind it. We all could be fooled, but I still think everyone is looking to try to get that Brock Purdy kind of Tom Brady kind of in the first round. That's what you think you're getting. And I'm like, where you're at, JJ McCarthy wasn't it. I would have suggested, like you said, y'all move up earlier and get one of the other three quarterbacks that you possibly could have gotten in that situation. You probably could have stayed pat and ended up with Michael Penix. We don't know. I just wouldn't have done that. The sorry, I like the pickup of Kyrie Jackson also. Solid corner. solid
Yep.
DB, beta slot into the rotation. Uh, Possibly could be a French Pro Bowler. I think his talent and his tape is there. I don't know maybe why he slid so much. Maybe you do. You'll be able to assess it a little bit more on why he slid as far as he did, as far as DBs. Maybe it was workouts or something. I know he was one of those names, like we said, that before the season, the college season, he was a talked about as a possible first, second round pick early, you know. But I like the pick overall, but I do give them a C because of the JJ McCarthy pickup, where they a lot of extras gave him a B plus. But what do you say? What do you
Yeah,
think?
I give them a C as well. I guess their thoughts on the JJ McCarthy thing is now before I get into that. So,
Mm-hmm.
and I know New England's next, so I'll
Mm-hmm.
talk about it more there. But
Mm-hmm.
they did offer New England both their first round picks this year and a first round pick next year to try to go get Drake May.
Okay. Okay.
So to dance, you got to have somebody that's willing to dance with you.
Yeah.
So the JJ McCarthy thing, I'm just going to assume that their thought is he didn't have to carry Michigan and he shouldn't have to carry Minnesota because you have Aaron Jones,
Mm-hmm.
Addison, Justin Jefferson, TJ Hawkinson, so a solid offensive line. So every now and then maybe he'll have to scramble to keep a drive alive,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't think they're going to try to put too much pressure on him.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know if they're going to just instantly say he's a starter, if they're going to have the open competition, or if they're going to let Sam Darnold start off. I
Let
like
me
the
ask you this question real quick, then. I
okay.
didn't mean to interrupt you, but let me ask you
You're
this
good.
question. Considering the 10th overall pick, do you draft a guy that you're going to use as a game manager with the 10th overall pick?
But that's what I was saying when we were talking when we were doing our mock drafts.
Mm-hmm.
I think that Kevin O'Connell, the head coach, I think that's more of what he would prefer.
Wow.
Now, I think he would have loved to have a bigger armed, more athletic Drake May.
Mm-hmm.
My issue with McCarthy is, and it was on a couple different ESPN shows,
Mm-hmm.
is his actual throwing mechanics. Like, yes, he can
Mechanics.
throw, yes, he
Mm-hmm.
can throw and all that. It's just at time, it just looks like he's giving it all he's got, and all ain't enough. You know what I'm saying? Especially when you're going to have to throw them out routes, you're going to have some sticky coverage. We talked about this division. We've talked about this division. You got Jair Alexander in Green Bay, Jalen Johnson in Chicago, and you just drafted Terrion Arnold, Rakestraw, and you got Carlton Davis, all three playing in Detroit. And those are guys. Those are physical corners. Corners are going to get in your face. You have to be pinpoint accurate. Yep. I don't know that JJ's pinpoint accurate, especially on those throws that's outside the numbers. Yeah. So overall, I give him a C. Dallas Turner, I love the Dallas Turner pickups. A player that I thought should have gone way earlier than this. And Brian Flores will get the maximum out of him because Van Ginkel can rush from outside or inside. You got Greenard on one side, and now Dallas Turner being able to learn from both of them. I like their defense should be pretty good. Now this is a better roster than a lot of people give it credit for.
Okay. All right. Well, touch on them Patriots, man.
All right. So here goes New England. So New England. Overall, I would have given it a B. Then the reports came out. I'm going to give them a C, and here's why. The Drake May pick, I like it because he can sit behind Jacoby Brissett. But here were some of the Patriots' options. The first option was the Giants. The Giants offered them their six overall this year and a first round pick next year. They could have gone up and they could have taken Drake May or whatever. The reason why that reason there alone drops the grade for me because the Giants are going to suck next year. You would have had potentially 2 top 10 picks like the Bears did this year. You could have traded back to 6, and then you could have talked to Minnesota instead of getting all 3 picks. You could have possibly got 11 and 23 this year. So you could have had 2 first-round picks this year, 2 first-round picks next year, and really, really beefed up this roster because this roster, in my opinion, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. They had 8 picks. This roster should have been 12, 13 draft picks. And you had the potential to pull that off. You could have got more later round picks. With that being said. Now, the players they took, I like. Love Jaheim Bell. giving them an option, H-back move tight end.
Mm-hmm.
Jalen Pope, route technician. I love that. Javon Baker, similar. Love that pick.
Yeah.
Now, Joe Milton, I like that pick. I like that pick because he's a player who can come in and just learn and develop. I like the pick because I like his traits. You're going to be playing outside. You're going to be playing in Buffalo.
Mm-hmm.
He's got a rocket. He's got a rocket for a right arm.
Mm-hmm.
He can throw the ball. What issues will you run into if he happens to be a better prospect or a better player than Drake May? You see what I'm saying?
I get what you're saying.
You took two quarterbacks. Drake May, a lot of the stuff with his footwork is messy. You know,
yeah.
It's a lot of questions, especially like I said, you had the potential to get 4-5 draft picks for one, so you could have added 4-5 more players to this roster and then been set up so much further for next year, because there's going to be some decent quarterbacks that come out next year. You'd have had a crack out.
Yeah.
You know, more pro ready quarterbacks, in my opinion, as well. So
you know what? I get what you're saying there, as far as them taking and just falling back, basically saying we'll draft the quarterback next year. I get it.
Because in my opinion, May should not to cut you off. May shouldn't play this year. He should not.
No, he shouldn't. It would be smart not to sit him. I question the Joe Milton pickup. I understand. I do understand your reasoning, though.
Yeah.
He'll help the room. I just look at it as, like you said, for a team that needs to fill holes and pick picks, I wouldn't have picked 2 quarterbacks in the same draft.
He'll be a tight end if he doesn't work out.
Exactly. We know that. I know. I mean, how long until we consider with him, his big arm's only going to keep taking him so far. And it continues. It took him from Michigan to Tennessee. Now it took him to the NFL. I'm like, eventually you're going to have to show us some touch, my guy. You're going to have to be able to throw the ball.
Everything can't be a fastball.
Yep, everything can't be a freaking fastball. Like I said, I like the Bell pick. I love the Baker pick. I love that pick. Polk is solid. I'm not gonna stay on it. I give it a C. Also, I think they addressed some needs, but they didn't. They could have gotten more. They could have actually cleaned up, like the Cardinals or the Ravens did, had they either made the trade or been a little bit smarter. But that's it. We don't have to stay on it that much. We move on to the New Orleans Saints. I like it. It's given an A minus. I wouldn't give it an A. I give it a solid B plus to a B minus, but I do like it. I like the Talesi Foaga. They address the need with Darius Pete, I believe his name. They have so much things going on with their offensive line, and then the aging and the contracts. Getting Kool-Aid to go opposite who they have. Lattimore. Great pickup. Because what you did is you kind of preserved or prolonged the life of your defense now, because you're young in the secondary. So that Spencer Rattler, you get a backup court, you get a guy at backup that could eventually possibly be a bridge starter. Not saying he'll be your franchise, but he could be a bridge starter at the least. Because I mean, let's just be honest. They let Jameis go. They should have actually let the guy. What's his name? What's the dude name? They got him from the Raiders.
Carr.
Yeah, let him go too. I love the Bub Means pick. I like that. I think he's a guy that'll better slide in a rotation. I'm not saying he's a 1 or 2, but he'll be a solid 3-4 kind of guy. I think he's a little bigger receiver. He's not a burner, but he's 6'1", 212. So big body, solid frame, productive. He'll be productive for him. Pittsburgh traditionally puts out some solid wide receivers, even contributors. I mean, Tyler Boyd, Fitzgerald. I mean, they have a history of producing some solid guys. I like both of them. But the first 4 picks, considering where the Saints are in the draft pecking order, were solid. They were solid for what they needed. I think they addressed their needs, but overall, because of where they are as a roster, I still think it was more they could have done, but they did solid. So I do stick with a solid B minus, B plus.
I give them a B as well. I actually like their first 6 picks because Jalen Ford and Christian Boyd can both come in and learn from Demario Davis and Cameron Jordan, the kid from Clemson that they drafted last year at D tackle too. So I mean, Christian
Brian
Boyd,
Bresci.
yes. Christian Boyd's smaller school guy, give him an opportunity to learn, become a
Mhm.
pro, and get adjusted to the game. But I think eventually he'll be able to play well.
Mhm.
Not gonna stay long on. I see we're
Time. Yeah. Speed
lengthy,
too.
but love the Kool-Aid pick. Spencer Rattler has an opportunity to learn, to grow, and he will have some weapons around him.
Mhm.
But Mean should definitely be in a rotation because it's not a lot of weapons around.
Yeah. Mhm.
So yeah, I give him a B.
All right, we move on to the Giants, man. Neighbors, great pickup. But what's his trigger man? Kind of question. You know, they
Yep,
put all that money into Daniel Johnson, Daniel Jones.
Dan
I
Jones.
the biggest pickup, and like I said, I'll give this a B minus to C plus, simply because I like the first two picks. I love the Tyler Nubin pick also. I think that's a guy that's gonna is a pro. He'll slot right in that
Yep,
safety spot, and he'll be one of those guys that went in the second round that becomes a Pro Bowl starter.
yep.
I really believe that's a Pro Bowl starter there. Tyler Nubin, because he played at Minnesota, doesn't get a lot of talk, but I won't elaborate anymore. We're gonna speed round these.
Right, I got you.
Yeah, C plus.
I give him a C as well. I love Malik Neighbors. Their first three picks I actually like. I liked Andrew Phillips. The
Mhm.
more I watched him, the feisty guy, can play opposite of I can't remember the corner that they drafted last year out of Maryland. Theo Johnson was a player that they needed because they don't
Mhm.
know what's going to go on with Darren Waller. There's talks of Darren
Mhm.
Waller being of retiring, but
Okay.
again, you don't know who your signal caller is going to be. There are
Yeah.
talks about getting rid of Daniel Jones. I thought that this was a team that, in my opinion, should have said F them picks next year, because
Yeah.
if this season doesn't work out, this is going to be a whole new coaching staff next year, anyways.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be a lot on Malik Neighbors.
Okay.
It's gonna be a ton on him, so they get a C.
Touch on the
Next
jet.
next up is the Jets. Love what the Jets did. Love what the
Mhm.
Jets did. I'm gonna give them a B.
Mhm.
Um, the only reason I'm going to give him a B, because this could have been more of an A. I love the first two picks. Olu
Mhm.
Fashanu, like I said, this was another guy we talked about. You can learn behind a Hall of
Mhm.
Fame left tackle. You can come in, you can play guard. Now you just kind of beefed up the protection for Aaron Rodgers.
Mhm.
Malachi Corley is a guy that's similar to Debo Samuel or a younger Randall Cobb, who Aaron Rodgers fed the
I
ball to.
love that
I
pick. Yeah.
love him there. I love
Mhm.
him there.
Mhm.
Now, the reason why I dropped the grade, and instead of it being an A, Braylon Allen, Isaiah Davis.
Mhm.
You already had two running backs. I know this is a team that likes to run the ball, but you have Brees Hall and the kid from Pitt who's got a crazy name I can't pronounce.
Uh-huh.
Um, I love I love those two as a 1-2 punch. Now
Mhm.
you're looking at four-headed guy. Braylon Allen's only 19. I think he just recently
He's
turned 20,
young.
so he's
Yeah.
young.
Mhm.
And for him to be a bigger back, he runs upright. He doesn't run behind his pads a lot.
Yeah.
Um, the guy to look out for, Quantez Stickers,
Yeah.
Out of the Canadian League,
Mhm.
drafted out of the Canadian League, had some circumstances that allowed, family issues that forced
Mhm.
him out of college and into the Canadian League, but he was the rookie of the year, if I'm
Mhm.
not mistaken. And he's going to be coming in and being able to play third corner, fourth corner,
Mhm.
maybe. He's already a professional because he played in Canada, so to just be getting up to speed of the NFL, but being able to play opposite of Sauce
Mhm.
in a solid defense, you're good.
Mhm.
But yeah, that's quick.
All right, I give
Like,
it a B. I stay with it. I agree with you on it being a B. Since you touched on everybody, I just want to say we were very, very
Travis,
happy about Travis,
me too.
considering the journey, the road he's had to take to get to the point that he got to before the injury.
Hmm.
Being told, man, I'm talking about being told that he was a running back that couldn't throw. He thought about switching to wide receiver. All of
Oh
these
wow,
things went on before the last two seasons that you saw. He thought about switching
he
completely
put
to
the
wide
work in.
receiver. Yeah, he put the work in, got developed, worked with multiple different players from Dillingham, Coach Dillingham, who's the head coach at Arizona State, to Tony Tokars, who's the quarterback coach at Florida State, to a guy by the name of Denny Thompson, who I will give a shout out to. Denny Thompson is a quarterback. I call him a guru. This is a guy who worked with Jordan, also worked with your guy in Indianapolis. What's your quarterback in
AR
Indianapolis?
and
AR. Yeah, developed him in high school and through college, and also Gardner Minshew, just to name a few.
right.
Uh, Denny's had a big impact on Jordan's throwing, along with those other names that I mentioned. I just want to say special shout out and happy for Jordan to get that opportunity. It was said that he would be fifth round. There was three franchises that looked at him. The Jets was one. He finds himself in a very good position behind two vets and
Yep.
being able to continue to heal, get better, and learn how to be a pro.
And learn. Yep.
Yeah, and he's a good locker room guy. That's it. We move on to the Eagles. My
You want to
God, my
start?
God, my God! I got to. I man, I probably shook the camera when I just beat the table. I can't. I can hate on the franchise because of the rivalry. I'm not gonna go. They fucking cleaned up. I love the draft. What can I say? I can't be mad. The professionals gave it A-. I give it A+. I mean,
Yes.
you get Quinion Mitchell and Cooper DeJean to add to you just brought Chauncey Gardner. You got Agent Darius Slay. I mean, what did they not do? I mean, you add a Jalix Hunt, who is a developmental guy, but considering you're switching your defense, he can slide into that rush in kind of situation at linebacker. You get Will Shipley, a versatile running back that can run between the tackles and also flex and catch the passes. Anais Smith, man, not a lot of people talking. It's another body, bruh. What are we doing? Then you turn around and still be able to get your legacy in Jeremiah Trotter Jr. late. I'm not even going to touch. You get Trevor Keegan, another. I mean, dude, it's endless. Johnny Wilson. A lot of people question this, and then you see their exec say he can run the route tree. And
Yep.
this is a team who has a Hall of Fame wide receiver in their franchise history that was 6'8", and Harold
Yep.
Carmichael. The city will know a little bit something about it. I'm not saying Johnny is a Hall of Famer or a Harold
Right.
Carmichael,
Right.
but considering you're coming in with Devontae Smith, AJ Brown, what's the tight end they already have? You got
Dallas
weapons.
Goddard.
Yeah, Goddard. Johnny can learn from two vets. He's a big body. He's in the perfect position. Perfect, because they can move him around, use him in a kind of a tight end role, even though he won't have to play it. But he's one of them players, like I said about what's the name with Kansas City, with Worthy, not
Worthy.
the burner, but he'll create matchup problems because he'll be quick enough. He's quick enough because he's a solid enough route runner to give linebackers problems,
And he's fast enough
and
too.
he's fast enough. All he has to do is continue to work on his hips and movement. He's in the perfect spot. He doesn't have to be the man. He
Yep.
can just be a role. I mean, he can find a role. You know how many Hall of Famers or all pro players are just role players? We don't understand. I'm not labeling him that. I'm just saying he's in a good position. I love it, and I'm happy for him in that spot. Um, you add to it, man. I give him an A++, man. Their
A
draft,
plus plus.
yeah,
This was my biggest winner
it's
of the
winner.
draft.
Yeah.
You got two of the top four corners, which are top four DBs, with your first two picks. Jalix Hunt can come in and learn behind Brandon Graham, Josh Sweat, Nolan Smith, Bryce Huff. He does not have to play. But what we know about the Eagles and
Mhm.
their history is, like the 49ers, like the Jets, they do a lot of rotating on that defensive front. This guy can come in and be a rotational player immediately. Still learning the position because he started out as a college safety. Will Shipley and Aeneas Smith, to my opinion, are similar because Aeneas Smith is a player that you can give him. He played running back at A&M, a return man. Like I told you, this is a different return
Yeah.
move this year. And he's a player that can play in the slot. You can give him jet sweeps and all that. Help get the ball out of Jalen Hurts' hand fast.
Yes.
That's going to neutralize Dallas in their pass rush. That's going to neutralize the Giants in their pass rush, and then bringing in Brian Burns. That's what that's going to do. Then you look at the two offensive linemen they got. Those are just going to be depth pieces because they re-signed most of their offensive line. They re-signed AJ Brown before the first round started. So every pick, I love everything that the Eagles did. And you already touched on Jeremiah Trotter Jr. He's a player who can come in and actually freaking play. But if you wanted to develop more and you wanted to gain some mass on it, because he's more of a mentality of an old school linebacker, but his body is more of a new age linebacker. So if you want him to gain some weight, he can do that because they picked up Devin White in free agency. So he doesn't have to come in and start, but he can still come in and learn. Knows the culture, knows the city, knows all that through his dad. Probably going to have his dad's number. And the Johnny Wilson thing that I like, even if he does struggle at wide receiver, because how big he is, he gives you an option. He might not be a tight end, but you can play him like a move tight end. And it's just going to create more options, more mismatches. The thing that everyone forgets because of the Eagles' collapse, they started off 10-1 last year.
Yeah.
They started off 10-1 last year. Queen
They're
Mitchell, in my opinion, is that's the division winner. That is the division winner right there.
Yeah.
That's the division winner right there. One of the best rosters in the NFL.
What's the tight end real quick? The tight end, he played for Green Bay, played for the Saints. He came from Miami, but he played basketball. I can't remember his name. Yeah.
Jimmy Graham.
That's who I say Johnny Wilson.
Johnny Wilson is,
he could be very, very productive. Won't necessarily, but Jimmy, if you look at his numbers, could be considered a fringe HOF.
Yep.
If you just look at his tight end numbers. Johnny could end his career as not a fringe guy, but a very productive pro. And we'll leave it at that. We go to Pittsburgh, man. Go ahead and talk about it. We stay in Pennsylvania.
I love their picks. Love their draft. I give them an A as well. Patanu, Frazier, off top. Now your offensive line is road grading everything, and this is a tough division. But what we know about Arthur Smith when his time in Tennessee is the OC and his time in Atlanta as the head coach, he's going to do a lot of play action. Russell Wilson thrives off play action. Having Fatanu and Frazier allowed you to move Broderick from left tackle to right tackle. So you just solidified your offensive line with 3 picks or with 2 picks. Roman Wilson's perfect complement to Jordan Pickens and Peyton Wilson. Peyton Wilson was your guy that you had playing at Green Bay. When you look at what he's able to do at 6'4", 230-something pounds, 4'4", playing next to Patrick Queen, he finds the football. This is going to be a nasty defense. They've just got more athletic on defense, just with that front. And he's a player that, because TJ Watt has had injury issues, he's a player that can also rush from the edge if that happens. Mason McCormick also helps beef up your offensive line. I love their draft. They're also one of my winners. They get an A.
A for me, real quick. This whole draft, every player they took told me attitude. The attitude of the city, the attitude of the franchise. Physical, we're going to fuck you up. Simple as that.
Period.
Peyton Wilson, we touched on it. I thought Green Bay. But outside of that, we did say he would end up in a city like this. He would end up in this kind of a situation. And he ended up either there, Cleveland, something like that. He was going to end up on a good defensive situation, and he did. I really love their draft. I do. San Francisco. I give it a B-, only because I think they reached in the first round with Pearsall. They went after what they wanted. We have to question, okay, what are you going to do with Ayuk? What are you going to do with Debo? Where does he fit with Jennings? I don't understand that, but I think they were another team that addressed their attitude. Ronaldo, Ronaldo Green, great spot for him to fall there. He has experienced vets that are able to work with him. And he continue to learn and develop. He is a guy that is he's not a burner at corner. He can play zone, but he is comfortable in man. His biggest claim to fame is he hemmed up not only Malik Labors, but he also did Brian Johnson. They didn't do nothing to him. He faced him 2 years in a row. 2 years in a row. Also Keyshawn Boutte. They were frustrated 2 years in a row dealing with our secondary, and as we say, with Jerry and Jones and him were 2 of the guys in that secondary that frustrated the LSU receivers 2 years in a row. I love the Malik Mustafa.
Yep,
man,
that was one of your guys.
Yes, I love that pick. He reminds me of what's the guy that got hurt for them, not in the Super Bowl, but the safety. He's Polynesian. Yes,
Ufanga.
He'll slide right into that same kind of role, bro. I love it. Tatum Bethune, because of where they're at linebacker, is just like Ronaldo. He fits an attitude. I'm surprised that he was one of the ones that we fringe thought wouldn't get drafted once the Florida State circles. We thought it would have been Deloach that got drafted, and he probably would have got the undrafted. But we were so happy that he did. He's a little bigger than Tatum, than Kalen. So that's maybe one of the reasons he's not taller, but he is a legit 225, 230. So he kind of fits the mold of where San Francisco has gone with their linebackers.
Right, with linebackers.
Yeah. So having what he has in front of him in linebacker, I love the spot. Um, I like Jacob Cowing also, but I once again, uh, it's the pickup of Pearsall that I question. I love Garindo. I mean, I love all of their picks. I just don't like where they pick Pearsall at. What is your opinion, though?
To be honest with you, I'm gonna give him a C. This could have been my third loser of the draft.
For real?
Yeah, but
Mm,
only because of what they needed. You didn't
mhm.
need skill positions. You didn't
You
need
need a
skill.
line. Mhm,
You needed line.
mhm,
And for Ricky Pearsall, I saw comps of Brandon Lloyd when it comes to his hands.
mhm,
The dude can catch, understand that. But
mhm,
my only issue with it is, and this is strictly us talking about the draft.
mhm.
If you're gonna draft two wide receivers, why did you not get rid of Debo or Ayuk or
Yep.
Jimmy? Because that could have, at least you could have gotten a haul for next year or even
Mhm,
furthermore in here. The running back, I know Kyle Shanahan likes to draft running backs. I love Garindo as a player. How
mhm.
much field action is he going to get when you got Elijah Mitchell backing up
Understood.
Christian McCaffrey? And
Mhm,
McCaffrey's going to touch the ball 25, 30 times a game.
mhm,
Um, I like the Renardo Green. I like the Mustafa pick. The Cowan is a good player. But like I
mhm,
said, I love the players. It's
mhm.
just they weren't necessarily needed. So what's going to happen when Trent Williams get hurt, or
Mhm,
you have issues along your offensive line? Now you got all these skill players, and the thing is, you can't take 30 skill players onto a roster.
mhm.
You know what I'm saying? You
Yep.
just can't. So like now, where are these players going to fit in? Not only that, drafting two wide receivers, how's that going to affect your two-star guys at wide receiver now?
Yeah. Take
So
us to Seattle, man. Go ahead. We transition on in.
Seattle, I think had a decent draft. I wouldn't give it an A. I would give it a B. Um,
Mhm,
I like the Byron Murphy pickup.
mhm. Loved it.
I'm assuming that this is going to try to McDonald's going to try to make him his Broderick Washington.
Mhm,
Christian Haynes, I liked it because they did need guard help. Tyrese Knight is a player that should be able to come in and learn. He possibly can start. Him and Jerome Baker may actually have it out. But overall, like I said, I know we're going to be quick. I give it a
mhm,
B. Decent pickup, like Nehemiah Pritchard, but you have already had a ton of corners.
mhm,
It was more than I thought they could do.
mhm.
Like I said, I give it a B.
Yeah, me too. B. One pick I question is AJ Barner.
Yeah,
I don't understand why you take him with your 121st pick. I didn't understand that. I don't think in that offense at Michigan he wasn't that productive as far as, I mean, they threw him the ball when they threw the ball. But I mean, if you bringing him in just to block, I get it. It's kind of like, I do understand though, because a lot of members of that staff are There's some Michigan guys on
right,
that staff too,
right.
so I could see why. I like the Byron Murphy pick. Me personally, I probably would have went offensive line first and then addressed defensive attack. I think they had a more dire need on the offensive line first.
Same.
But overall, I agree. B. All right, we're gonna transition to Tampa Bay. Loved it. I love what they did for where they're at. And I'll put it that way. I give it a solid, what do you say, B plus to an A
Mm-hmm.
minus. I love the Graham Barton. You get a guy that can play center guard or tackle in that
Yep.
position. So he fills three roles in one. You get a Swiss Army knife. The Chris Braswell pick for what they need and what they do and the type of defense they run. He can get after the quarterback. You got a linebacker, but you got an edge rusher. I
Right.
love it. Tyke Smith for where they took him. Got to come in, rotational piece, body, can cover, will come up and tackle. Comes from, the program is Georgia, so he'll be able to fit in. Love the Jalen McMillan pick.
Yes.
Probably actually not the tactician that Polk is, the route runner, not the great hands and catch radius of Adunzie, but he's the best blend of both.
Yep.
He was the better blend of both of them. I mean, in some drafts, this would have been a first round, early second round pick. And for them to get him where they got him with their fourth pick, that's great. Bucky Irvin, they needed more help at running back. You get a guy that can be explosive, adds to the body. That's it. I give them a B plus A minus. That's it.
I give him a B as well. I love the first four picks. Actually, the first five picks. All of them
Hmm.
should come in and contribute immediately.
Hmm.
So you already touched on them. I don't have to piggyback off
Okay.
nothing.
All right. We go to Tennessee, man. Yeah. We got.
I give Tennessee a B. I see that it was given an A.
Mm-hmm.
J.C. Latham. I feel like you probably should have went somewhere else, especially since you need left tackle, and I'm an Alabama fan.
Yeah.
He's been solid on the right side. How's he going to transition to the left? Not sure. Tavondre, but he's had a lot of immaturity issues, and to draft him as high as you did at 38, and I'm not sure if Newton was still on the board then.
We'll do another review show, and we'll come back and touch on that.
He was 2 weeks later, but I thought he was more of a third rounder guy, and then he just recently had a DUI the week before the draft as well. His weight's going to be an issue. His work ethic's going to be an issue. You'll see how it is. Now, if he does pan out, being next to Jeffrey Simmons is really nice. Love Cedric Gray.
Yes, I love that pick.
That's really, to me, that's my favorite pick out of them all. But you can go ahead.
Same thing, man. I don't like it. As I've already touched, I don't like their overall. J.C. Latham, right tackle. You don't draft a right tackle that high, unless he can really show and play left tackle. You don't do that. Trevonde Sweat, everything you already said. We don't have to beat a dead horse. I don't. It's a B- to me, C+ overall. The Jarvis Brownlee pick would be interesting. I know him from Florida State. He got better. He's a player that got better at Louisville. He did have solid performance at the Senior Bowl. He did pretty well. He does have attitude, and one thing you're gonna get is with him, he's probably average to slightly above average in coverage, but you get a corner that is gonna come down there and put his nose in the run game, and he's not afraid to get dirty and tackle. We move on to the last team here, Washington Commanders. I liked it. It got an A- from the West Ham. I give it a solid A even to possibly fringe A+. They got their quarterback that they wanted, athlete. They got probably the best defensive tackle prospect in the draft. You turn around and get Mike Sandstrom, who's a strong DB. He wasn't a first guy, but this is a guy that is physical. He's a physical corner, like I mentioned about Brownlee, can cover, but what he's going to give you is a physical guy. Luke McCaffrey is a guy that you can look out for as a guy that's a possible sleeper. To not only he's going to make the roster, but pedigree's there. We know his dad, know his brother.
No, his brother.
He's already coming in the door knowing how to be a pro. He knows he can run routes, and I think he was somewhere else before he went to Rice.
I can't remember.
Was he at Michigan? I'm not sure.
Not Michigan.
It wasn't Michigan, but he was somewhere else.
He was a quarterback.
Yeah,
he was a quarterback.
Because then you got Christian, you had Dylan. Then they had another brother, Dylan. But I like the pickups, and it's one of them things where I look at the teams outside of the Giants, the teams in the division where the Eagles and Washington did really well on draft day.
Was that Nebraska?
Luke McCaffrey?
Yeah.
I'd have to see. I don't remember. Yeah, Nebraska. It was.
Okay. Because he was a quarterback. He was a quarterback, and then he transferred and became a wide receiver.
Okay, so we got it. But yeah, overall, you can touch on some of the other guys, but overall, yeah, I give it an A. I stick with what the proposed said, A-, A+ in that range. It's a solid draft. Their first 5 guys. We didn't even talk about Ben Sinnott.
Right, I give him an A as well. Aiden Daniels. The only thing that I wish they would have done early on, but then again, the way the draft fell is get you an offensive tackle to make sure that you got Jaden protected. They got Brandon Coleman later on. I think he's more of a guard. I think his footwork will probably push him into being a guard. Ben Sinnott, Mike Steele, Jazon Newton. Now Newton gives you an opportunity to, if he's going to come in, now you got trade value with your other two, with Deron Payne and Jared Allen. So we'll see how that works, but I give him an A. So we can still got the Cowboys and the Colts.
Yeah, you go ahead, since you're going to lead off with the Colts, and let us know what you think, man, as we look here and we break them down.
So for me, I give the Colts because not just because it's my team, but based off of what they picked and what we needed, I give them an A. Laiatu Latu is very many said that he was the best edge rusher with the most secondary moves. We needed edge. He should definitely be able to come in and provide us 10 sacks as long as he stays healthy, which he has been the last 2 seasons at UCLA. So let's say that first. AD Mitchell. They did a thing, and I think AD Mitchell had 1 drop in 2 years or something like that.
Mhm.
He steps up in big time situations. And our GM went on a rant about some of the stuff that you were talking about, how they were trying to attack his character,
Uh-huh.
uh, and he called it BS. Uh, Gonclaves and Bortolini have the
Yeah.
potential. They're what we have on our offense. Braden Smith has been hurt at right tackle. Ryan Kelly has
Mhm.
been hurt at center. Um, there's no talks of extending Ryan Kelly at this time, so this gives us an opportunity to reset at the center position with a younger
Mhm.
player who the play shouldn't dip that much with Bortolini.
Mhm.
Goncalves gives us a swing guy right now because he can play inside and out. So he gives us versatility. Anthony Gold, one of the return guys that we talked about. One of the return
Mhm.
guys that we talked about. But him and Mitchell add speed to our wide
Yeah.
receiver core. And when you know the
Mhm.
type of arm our quarterback has, we're going to need someone to stretch the field.
Yeah.
You're not going to be able to put 8 in the box against Jonathan Taylor. We still
Mhm.
have Anthony as a weapon as well. So you're
Yeah.
going to have to play 11 on 11 football when it comes to that. Now the last 4 picks, this is what our GM Ballard does.
Mhm.
Carlisle can play safety or linebacker, similar to Ronnie Harrison that we picked up.
Mhm.
Jalen Simpson can play nickel. He can play corner. He can play safety. So it gives us more versatility there. I'm not
Mhm.
familiar a lot with the Micah Abraham, but if I'm
Mhm.
not mistaken, I think he has like 12 career picks or something. So he's able to get his hand on the ball. We'll see how that works. We drafted Darius Rush last year out of South Carolina, and he didn't even make the team. We'll see how that goes. And Jonah Laulu is
Mhm.
more versatility. So every person that we have picked up has versatility. They're not all locked into a position. Luwalu can
Mhm.
play up and down our defensive front, providing that he makes the team. If not, he could be a good practice squad guy.
Mhm. I give it an A too. A to A minus. The Latu, you touched on everything. The Tanner Bertolini, I love that pick. I was hoping he was still
Yes.
going to be there. I love that pick. He's possibly the most athletic interior lineman in the draft. Not
Yep.
only just athleticism, but he does his technique. His film was solid. The Anthony Gold, I was going to touch on that too. Special teams guy, good return guy
Mm-hmm.
from Oregon State. You've already touched on everything else. So there's no need for me to repeat it. I love that Adonai Mitchell is going to allow y'all to go downfield, and that Conclaves is one to look out for down the road too as a development guy that could become a starter. So
Yep.
overall, I give you an A. You put pieces to your defense, and you added weapons for your offense to continue to get better. It was just a good overall solid draft. So we move on to the Cowboys. I'm surprised they were given an A minus. I would have given a B minus to a solid B. I love the Tyler Guyton. I love what they did to move back. A lot of people scratched their head in particular. A few got people I know didn't like the Marshawn Nealon pickup, the Marshawn Nealon.
Mm-hmm.
They would have preferred them because they were in position to take a running back where you probably needed a younger running back like Trey Benson was there. But I get it.
Y'all,
Why draft
y'all
a
went all
running
in with
back?
Zeke.
Yeah, but why draft a running back if you don't got
Yeah.
nobody to block? The Cooper BB pick, being able to get a guy that was probably a high, could have been taken higher to get him where you got him. That's a great pick. He's a road grader. He's going to be able to move the ball. So you were able to plug 2 spots. So you were able
He's
to
probably gonna
answer
be
them.
your center.
Yeah, he's going to be your center. He's going to be your center. So you're able to now you got Smith, BB, Martin, Steele, and then you can slide Guyton or flip flop.
Mm-hmm.
See what I'm saying? Or kick Smith out. You see what I'm saying? So it gives you
Yep.
options. Guy can play your right tackle. You can move Steele over and try him out at left, or you can kick Smith out to left. So you get
And put
flexible.
Steele at guard.
Yeah, Steele at guard. The Maris, I don't know enough about him. The Maris linebacker, I looked at that pick and I was like, okay, now what are we doing? I don't know much about him, but I do know what I did see. I wasn't necessarily thinking that would have been. I mean, I know there were better linebackers on the board they could
Right.
have took. Um, Keelan Carson is interesting because this was a guy that was talked about as we've beaten the dead. I'm not going to beat a dead horse, but we talked about could have been a fringe second round guy,
Mm-hmm.
starting the season. But when we drafted him, I knew about the what was said about him. But when I remembered seeing the film, I was like, wait a minute, this is a guy Keon Cook. Yeah, I'm keep. I mean, this is what the guy they called him. I don't know if it's the one they call seatbelt. In Wake
Mm-hmm.
Forest, they called him seatbelt, and he got utterly destroyed in that game last year. If you go watch the Wake Forest versus Florida State game, he got put on some good tape. Keon could have used some of that tape. Some of the other receivers could have used tape against this guy in that situation. So I'm not saying that to say he can't play. I'm thinking you getting a guy that you getting a good value pick for where they drafted him. The rest of this, it looks like Jerry Specials. Um, Justin Rogers is a French guy. I think. I mean, you did address the position. He's a guy that can plug holes. Could probably work into the rotation. But he's no more than okay. You just let you might you probably gonna let Stephon Gilmore go walk. You know, you
Mm-hmm.
let some of those guys. What was it? Who they had?
Hankins is gone.
Yeah, gone. So you're looking for a body to fill that. You're still trying to develop Mazai. I would give him a B minus, simply because the first two of the first three picks I'm solid with. Marshawn, I'm questionable on, not because of the need. You do need pass rushers, but they're still developing the guy that got a few years out of Ole
Sam
Miss.
Williams.
Yeah, Sam Williams. It's the same mold kind of guy.
Yep.
It's that same kind of mold. So is this guy insurance for possibly what you're gonna do down the road with I don't know why his name just slipped my mind. With your linebacker, your star. Help me out, man.
Parsons.
Yeah, Parsons. I don't know why it just slipped my mind. I just had a brain fart there. He can definitely come in and rotate with Parsons, or maybe it depends on what they want to do on defense and how they want to work it.
I think they're going to be more 4-3.
Yeah,
They're going to be more
Zimmerman. So
4-3.
they're gonna go. So maybe they're gonna go more traditional. That means maybe he's pulling Micah out of the always rushing the passer and moving him more to linebacker. This may be a suggestion saying, okay, we'll put you as a pass rusher, have Micah line up on the weak side behind you, or move him around and still have Lawrence, or depending on what they do with Lawrence, and rotate because they did also lose what's saying to Washington. They lost another piece.
Armstrong.
Armstrong, Dorrance Armstrong. So I can see where that is. My only question is taking Maris Lofau. I just don't understand. I mean, I don't understand that pickup. Ryan Flournoy, you could have got better there at value if you were going wide receiver. You didn't answer enough there. But because of that, I give him a B minus. And that's it. What about you?
I give them a B as well. I think they had more holes than people really care to realize, not just on the offensive line. And when it comes to those holes, I think offensive line is really the only thing that they kind of secured. You needed a running back, did not get a running back. You picked up Zeke. Don't know how much, how well that's going to work. Marshawn Kneeland, to me, what is he? Is it going to be him and Sam Williams when you let Lawrence go? Because if you listen to what Jerry said when they were talking about Dak, is this past season was probably the best team that they'll be able to put around Dak. Now, when it comes to money, like, you're not going to have everybody. So Mike has to get signed. CD has to get signed. I would have thought that they would have tried to get more depth at their wide receiver position. Yeah, like I said, I give it a B. You touched on a lot. Cooper Beebe can come in. He gives you versatility. He can play guard, but I think he'll start off as your center. For Guyton, I don't think you want to put him at left tackle. I think he'll probably be your right tackle. We'll see how that all works, but overall, I give him a B. All
right. Well, that concludes our show. We'd like to thank everyone for watching. Please make sure you like, share, and subscribe. It's free. Just hit the little thumbs up. Make sure to continue to tap in and watch D's Corner. As I've stated, I got some other things and projects I'm working on. We're working on together. It's gonna start ramping up a little bit here after May. I'm gonna try to pick up some things myself. We just really appreciate everyone for tapping in. Thank you once again. Appreciate it. And we say peace out to you.